Slow ride, do 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 do. Take it easy, do 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 do. Slow ride, take it easy.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is streaming on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And this Sunday is my birthday. I will be streaming this Sunday. For those who are wondering, we're actually going to celebrate my birthday on Saturday. So I will be live on Sunday. So I get to celebrate that with all of you. It is Pisces season, gang. It is Pisces season. But happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. And shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. And welcome back, guys. We have a really big show for you tonight. We are going to do call in tonight after the show. We have Scott Ritter and Garland Nixon joining us tonight together. We have so much to get into about this crazy war here with Iran. So let's go ahead and dive in. Tonight's theme is he who controls the narrative controls the people. And I think you'll see that play out with the stories that we have tonight. Let's go ahead and give shout outs to everyone in the chat. Greetings, Blockbuster says hi. Shout out to Amber said, I meant to say hell no. Oh no. Okay. Guys, make sure you answer that poll question. I think with these YouTube polls, if you already submit an answer, I don't think you can change it. But sorry, Amber. Yeah, okay. So we'll know. We'll know. But please answer that question. I'm curious to see the results of that poll that's pinned to the live chat. Shout out to Rebaba. Just like the Israeli bombed U.S. on 9/11, then blamed Al-Qaeda, who the United States funded. We're going to get into a lot of it tonight. Greetings, CBC Voter says, happy Tuesday, Sabby and Eric. Shout out to Silver Surfer says, peace, love, Sabby. Keep speaking truth to power. Greetings, Steinbar says, we want Sabby. What's up? Shout out to Judista. Come on, Sabby. You have that. So first of all, Scott has explained this before. And I think you already know that. So I think you're just a troll. Scott has already talked about that before. Jesus Christ. Shout out to Myra says, hi, everyone. Greetings 18 says, hello, hello. Shout out to, oh, that's 18 again. Greetings, KR. Epstein Circle is unbelievable. Greetings, Lorez. Hi, Sabby, Eric, Corey, and RBN fam. I'm so tired of war, Sabby, and tired that our country keeps causing too many, I think you mean. Voted hell no. Surprised there are hell yes. Are y'all hate watching this channel? LOL. Well, one person already told us that they accidentally hit the wrong one. Greetings, Hannah says, Sab, what's up? Shout out to Randy said, when did no new wars, Trump, trans, MAGA, Verive, into G? Let's change some regimes. Dubia Bush, Sabby, and my RBN comrades. Penguin blue tear. Again, that's one of those emojis I can't see on here. Shout out to Cloudman says, Ayo, so they're wilding out in the ATX, but I'm lamping, about to roll something up and smoke something because Sabby is about to drop it like it's hot. B1 fam, salute to everyone in the chat. Welcome. Greetings, Mr. Moto says, why don't you stop and look, Mr. Moto, so over. Am I the same boy you used to know? Why don't you stop and think it over? Am I the same Mr. Moto so who knew your soul? Interesting there. Greetings, awesome black dude says, most people don't realize Mossad has more assets operating in America than in any Arab nation in the world. You better tell it. Greetings, Playmaker says, the bombing in Dubai, I feel sorry for the immigrant workers. Well, we're going to get to the gist of that tonight about who actually did that attack, because there's new information that has come forward. Greetings, Lawrence says, Kat Abu for Congress in Illinois, 09. Greetings Good says, how is a banner of Charlie Kirk on the DOE building? I don't know, dude. Like I said, it's a wild administration. Greetings R Sator says, doobie do. And greetings Myra Page says, hi Lawrence and Mr. Soto. Let's go ahead and dive in because we have so much to get into, ladies and gents, before Scott and Garland get here. I want to give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories here. We have the ultimate. There's Sabinators. Don't forget about Sabsters. Yeah. We also, of course, cannot forget about those Sabbies. They're holding the fort down as well. And last but not least, we also have members. All of their names are listed here, ladies and gents. And believe it or not, you will see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen throughout the show. Thank you guys so much for that. I do want to give a special shout out to new Sabby patrons. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for Hoppy Rabbit. I like that name. And C, just their initial, C. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate you, fam. Okay. We have so much to get into. If you haven't done so yet, please do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. So let's go ahead and show you the thumbnail, ladies and gents, so you can see what we are discussing tonight. Like I said, there's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on, and people are losing their cool. Tonight, ladies and gents, we are discussing, woohoo, the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia has been hit. Is this a false flag? We're going to tell you what Iran is saying. We're going to tell you what Saudi Arabia is saying. There's a lot of conflicting information that's coming out there, especially from corporate media. So we're going to get into all that. We're also going to discuss the U.S. consulate was just hit in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not too happy. And they have said that they feel like the United States has abandoned them. Whoa, you don't say. You don't say. We'll get into all that with the latest updates about the war in Iran. We're also going to discuss, this is a big one. Erica Kirk is doing some shady stuff with Charlie Kirk's memory. And people need to see this. This also ties into this recent report about what people think may have really happened to Charlie Kirk that day that he was killed. There's new information that has been released about that, but you guys need to know that they are already trying to change what Charlie Kirk said. And by they, I mean the CEO of Turning Point, which is Erica Kirk. So we're going to get into all of that. Like I said, there's some shady things going on, ladies and gents. We're also going to discuss, is there a lesson to be learned from trying to open too many businesses at once? We're going to get into what just happened with the owner of Slutty Vegan. This is a restaurant that really kicked off in Atlanta, started out as a food truck, became a brick and mortar. They have now filed for bankruptcy. Is there a lesson to be learned here? We're going to get into all of that. We're also going to discuss this one I did not predict to come, but it has arrived. Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire has decided to flip. He is not happy about this war in Iran, and he's not the only one. What does that mean for Matt Walsh and his position at the Daily Wire? Is Ben Shapiro going to get rid of him too? We're going to talk about all the MAGA people that are coming forward to oppose what Donald Trump is doing with this war in Iran. Again, never would have thought I would have seen that. And last but not least, we are going to discuss the suspect in the Texas shooting. They have named him. They have ID'd him. There's a picture of him there. I believe this is a false flag. There's just too many things that have been, quote unquote, left behind that fit the narrative of the Iran war. And so I'm going to go ahead and warn you guys right now. This might be the first, but it probably won't be the last false flag that we see in the U.S. So get ready, folks. It's coming. All of that tonight, ladies and gents. Again, the theme is he who controls the narrative controls the people. And you'll see that tonight. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started with the first story. Again, smash that like button if you haven't had a chance to do so. And let's go ahead and dive in. Okie dokie. We have discussed many things on this show about what Erica Kirk has been doing, but I never thought it would get to this. She has really sunk low now. They are actively trying to paint a different picture about what Charlie Kirk said with the Iran war. Of course, this was last year. We all know what he said. We're going to revisit some of these things. But I just want to show you what Erica Kirk, and it's her because she's the CEO of Turning Point USA. And this is tweeted from the Turning Point USA account. I'm just going to show you what she's already doing. So check this out. Turning Point USA put this out today. Charlie Kirk, if you are serious about actually protecting human rights, you should want to make Iran Western again. Now, they posted this video today, and Grok already came in to tell people this is messed up, because what they don't tell you when they post this video, and we're going to show it, they don't tell you that this was something Charlie Kirk said prior to his pivot about being against this war with Iran. So Turning Point is trying to control a narrative. Pay attention to what is going on. They are trying to change the memory of Charlie Kirk, and they're trying to convince people that Charlie Kirk was in favor of a war with Iran. So they post this old ass video to prove that point instead of the more current one. So we're going to see both of these. So this is what he said in the past.
How much do you actually know about Iran? Persia was a great power, and then Iran took a turn for the worst. Interestingly enough, there was the Shah of Iran, and then the Shah was displaced by Mossadegh. Mossadegh was democratically elected. Now, to be very fair, the United States and Britain got rid of Mossadegh, and then we reinstalled the Shah. Bad decision, which then led to the Iranian Revolution, where radical Islam took over Iran. Look at some of these pictures of what Iran used to be. It was wealthy, it was proud, it was strong. The Persians are wonderful people. Some of my closest friends are Persians, and I love the Persian people. And we should have a heart for the Persian people to try and have a better future. Regime change is very difficult to talk about. I actually don't like talking about regime change. It's very complicated, but understand that there can be brighter days ahead for the Iranian people. and just look at some of these pictures of how beautiful Iran used to be, how beautiful Tehran used to be. And it's very easy to kind of sit in your Western armchair and be like, oh, Israel's terrible. Well, you were able to enjoy free speech rights and a lot of rights here in the West that Iran used to have. And if you are serious about actually protecting human rights, you should want to make Iran Western again.
So does everybody see what Erica Kirk is trying to do? Again, they posted this from the Turning Point USA account. So what Erica Kirk is trying to do is she is trying to, again, control the narrative because the majority of Americans polled are against this war with Iran. So she puts out this old video of Charlie Kirk basically saying, like, look, Iran can be just like it was before if it was westernized, right? So Turning Point USA is effectively trying to convince Americans to support the war in Iran. That's what this video is all about. He who controls the narrative controls the people. And so they know that Charlie Kirk said the exact opposite before he died. And so what they're trying to do now is to convince you that Charlie Kirk would absolutely unequivocally support this war with Iran. And as we saw before he died, that did not seem to be the case. So this is very shady, but it's also manipulative. You will also see that because they tried to be sneaky about it, Grok, which is the AI tool on X, Grok posts community notes when something is out of context. Here's what Grok said. The clip predates Charlie Kirk's June 2025 statement calling regime change in Iran pathologically insane. He opposed war. Grok had to come in with a community note because Turning Point USA and the Erica clan, they are all trying to convince you that he is supporting this. In fact, there was a recent episode of the Charlie Kirk show where the Turning Point USA staff said if Charlie Kirk were alive today, he would support what Donald Trump is doing in Iran. These are just straight up lies. You see how sneaky they are? Now, let's show you what he said before. Before he died. Listen to this.
Let's do some updates about Israel and Iran and potentially the United States. On one side is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas and has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia, but also you have...
That's actually false. See, this is another thing a lot of people don't tell you, and I hope that's why you're watching independent media. The second largest population of Jewish people in the Middle East lives in Iran. Of course, the largest is in Israel, but after that is Iran. So when you see all these bombs going off and Israel was killing all these people in Iran, you need to know that the second largest Jewish population in the Middle East is in Iran. Corporate media doesn't want to tell you that.
Secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. So I'm pointing to the first extreme right now, the neoconservative extreme. We must go take off the head of the snake right now. Play cut 285.
Be all in, President Trump, in helping Israel eliminate the nuclear threat. If we need to provide bombs to Israel, provide bombs. If we need to fly planes with Israel, do joint operations. But here's the bigger question. Wouldn't the world be better off if the Ayatollahs went away and replaced by something better? Wouldn't Iran be better off? It's time to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen. Let's close that chapter soon and start a new chapter in the Mideast, one of tolerance, hope, and peace.
Okay, that sounds good, but that's pathologically insane. I'm sorry, it is. How do you know?
How come Turning Point USA didn't retweet this video? You see what I mean? How come they didn't retweet this video, ladies and gentlemen? Why are they retweeting an old video?
No, it's going to be better. Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful. But maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person civil war. Lindsey Graham is so consistently out of his mind, it's hard to even comprehend. Iran is hugely diverse. It is a massive country. Do the people agitating for war even know that? Because be clear, regime change is war. Just to understand, regime change is not like changing the head coach at the Chicago Bears. It's not how it works. It's not like a clean transfer. Typically in the Mideast, it's very messy, creates a quagmire, and then there is civil war.
So, sounds very different than the video that you just saw, right? They're retweeting old information to get people on board with this war in Iran. And I'm pretty sure there are people that are part of Turning Point USA, that may be members of Turning Point USA, that also said, look, we do not support this war. And they're like, uh-oh, we got some of our own members opposing this. And so they're trying to trick them. Guys, this is sneaky, it's corrupt, and it's shady. This is what I meant about controlling the narrative. Now that brings me to this part, because people have to see this. This part also was very shady. Shout out to Jenny Robinson. She shared this. Erica Kirk and TPUSA are trying to quite literally delete Charlie's legacy. Share it and tell everyone they are deleting all of his work. All of his videos and podcast episodes are gone. You can find nothing on Apple Podcast or Spotify before January 5th of this year. So she's talking about Apple and Spotify. I'm not sure if it's the same for any of the other platforms, but let's look at this here and see what's happening. So she's doing a search here, 2026, February, January, but it's almost as if January 7th, where is 2025? So do you guys see what Erica's doing? And again, like, we have to say Erica, you can't just say Turning Point USA. She is the CEO. Do you see how she's removing his podcast episodes that don't agree with the narrative that they are trying to push? It's almost as if they're trying to rewrite history. But again, we're supposed to believe this woman's so grieving and, oh, I miss my husband. Oh. She got time to erase things, though. Who is driving the bus? Makes you wonder if a lot of this was all planned. We have new information here that I think you guys should see. This is from Wolves and Finance. They were talking about this van that was present the day that Charlie Kirk was killed. Everybody needs to tie all of this together. I find it very strange that the CEO of Turning Point USA and all these other people are actively out there trying to make it seem as though Charlie Kirk didn't change his position on war with Iran. Don't forget, he went to Donald Trump last time and told him, do not strike Iran. This is not going to be popular. People are not for it. This is going to be absolutely, a travesty. No more wars. Remember, he was the one who went and spoke to him about that. And the next thing you knew, he was dead. So let's go revisit that day and see what happened with that van.
1. The military convinced Donald Trump to run for president. 2. there's infighting among intelligence agencies. 3. People within the military wanted to influence the election. 4. Charlie Kirk and Tyler Boyer have a strange photo flashing hand signs. 5. There is evidence Turning Point was violating election laws. 6. There is evidence of financial irregularities at Turning Point. 7. Turning Point has multiple employees with connections to Fort Huachuca. And 8. Fort Huachuca is the U.S. Army Intelligence Center of Excellence.
See all the military connections? And if we really want to go back down that road, don't you guys remember when Donald Trump had that attempted assassination where he said the bullet grazed his ear? And then all of a sudden, magically he didn't have to wear a bandage on that ear anymore. The ear looks totally fine to me. All the pieces are starting to fall in place.
This is the definition of a conspiracy. The only question is, how far did this conspiracy go? Did the military actually break the law to try to influence the election? Now, with all of this in mind, let us revisit what happened on the day that Charlie Kirk was murdered. I'm going to show you 3 things that most people have missed. Number 1, the van. On the day of the shooting, there was a black van pulled up right behind Charlie Kirk's tent. This is a breakdown given by a small YouTuber, Algiest Nydream.
And then it's Kirk himself who starts the countdown by tipping his nose. The trunk opens, Turk confirms by tipping his cap in his ear, and the bodyguard also gives his affirmative signal.
I'm going to freeze this frame. I'm not going to show the actual shooting because this is on YouTube, but this is the moment right before the shot happens. In the background, you see the black van. Someone opened the back of this van moments before the shooting happened. Then we also see the bodyguard, Dan Flood, doing some kind of hand sign right before the shooting happens. Now let us go right after the shooting.
So this van, which I did not pay attention to at that time, has become a question.
In the meantime, they also close the trunk to hide its content from the spectators fleeing the stands. 19 seconds after the shot, we can observe the trunk closed.
19 seconds after the shot, the trunk is closed.
That is strange. Now, that's something I did not know about, but that is very odd. Just things that we may not have paid attention to at that point in time.
Excuse me? Am I the only person who finds this suspicious? And someone who had just opened the trunk says to themselves, while everyone is running for cover, I'm going to shut the trunk of my van. I find this extremely suspicious. Number 2, the audio. This same YouTuber took audio from the different camera angles and used it to triangulate the trajectory of the bullet.
I looked at all the clips that had a good enough quality to analyze them with the software Audacity. Then I calculated the angles, distances, and crack thumb deltas.
According to his calculations, the bullet from the top of the Losi Center could not have hit Charlie Kirk, but in fact seems to be traveling straight towards the back of the van.
This is something that Ken, when this shooting first happened, when Ken came on the show, this was something that Ken said. He said, there's no way that shot from the top of that building would have landed where it landed. And at the time, like, this had just happened. And I was just like, well, how do you know? And yada, yada, and all this type of stuff. But more information has been revealed over time, and people have more questions.
This analysis has been repeated by multiple people. Here's another small YouTuber, Jordan Henshaw, who performs the same calculations in a graphic simulation.
Okay, so this software is basically doing exactly what Algiest did, only it's in real time.
Okay, here's the tent where Charlie Kirk is at. Here is the van.
As I drag the little crosshairs right there, it is computing the error between predicted values and actual measured values for Charlie Kirk shot versus the van shot. Doing this in real time, and over here on the right, you can see the amount of error. And over here, this is simulating the mock cone visually in 3 dimensions. And what I'm doing is I'm waiting for the mock cone to hit the camera or the microphone. Then I say set crack, and then I wait for it to hit. Then I wait for the thump sphere to hit the microphone, and I say set thump.
So according to this, someone opened the back of the van, someone shot into the back of the van from the top of the Losi Center, and then they closed the trunk. That leaves the question, what happened to Charlie Kirk?
See, this is the question that a lot of people have. You know, and we didn't really get to see, especially at that time, what was going on behind the scenes there with that van and everything else. But people are starting to piece more things together. And if you think about what I just showed you, the fact that Erica is out here putting out lies, trying to frame this in such a way to get people to feel as though, look, guys, this is how Charlie Kirk felt about Iran. He would actually support this war with Iran. That's what they're doing. They're playing with people's heads right now with that. Guys, this is all, so you have every right to be suspicious. Every single right. And the way that Erica is behaving, she's not behaving like someone who's a grieving widow. Now we're going to get to the brown shirt guy. This is another one.
According to the audio, it is not possible for Tyler Robinson to have shot Charlie Kirk.
What did I tell you? When Larry Wilkerson came on the show after Charlie Kirk was shot, Larry Wilkerson said he believes that Tyler Robinson was invented. He said they invented him. Most people I know do not believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk.
Now, these YouTubers are speculating that the death was faked, but I think it is more sinister than that. There was way too many people who wanted to seize control of Turning Point. Number 3, Brown Shirt Man. There was a man in the crowd I'm going to call Brown Shirt Man. I want to give credit to all the internet sleuths who have been talking about this. I want to especially thank an internet sleuth named Jeff Renz for putting a lot of this information together. And also thank you to another internet sleuth, Dave from Kansas, for helping me research this. Also, I have to give credit to journalist Stu Peters, who's one of the first people to talk about Brown Shirt Man. Here is another angle of the shooting.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
We have to pause here, but look at Brown Shirt Man. So do you see his hand right here, right on his cuff? Almost as if he's giving some type of signal. We have to fast forward through this part really quick. Okay, and then we can bring it back in.
I am blacking out Charlie Kirk. This is the moment of the gunshot. Who is this guy? My understanding is that this is someone named Rick Cutler. I have not seen this man in video of other Charlie Kirk events, so it appears that he is a new member of the security team. But if he is in security, why would he be stationed behind the barriers? Am I the only person who thinks this is suspicious? He's wearing a brown shirt. I would say he's 30 to 40 years old. He looks like a military guy. You know how people in the military have a certain look? Brown Shirt Man looks like a military guy. Here's another close-up of the Brown Shirt Man from the event. You can see he has a unique tattoo on his arm. This person right here is Frank Turek, who is a pastor who works with TPUSA Faith. A lot of people have been wondering why he's holding his cell phone this way. Frank Turek claims he was on FaceTime. This does not look like a FaceTime call to me. This looks like he is recording video footage. These are 3 angles, just so you can understand where Frank Turek is. Frank Turek is pointing his cell phone camera directly at Brown Shirt Man.
This is Frank Turek right here in the white baseball cap.
So I started looking more closely at Brown Shirt Man. Something that strikes me as odd are these sunglasses. These are massive, bulky sunglasses. I realize that military men tend to like to wear large aviator-style sunglasses. But even for aviator sunglasses, these are pretty bulky. The lenses are big, the frames themselves are really bulky. I bring this up because one thing you would want in a high-profile assassination is a laser sight on your gun to make sure you do not miss the target. One thing that militaries use is infrared lasers. These are lasers that are invisible to the human eye, but can be seen when viewed through IR glasses. Now, normally, IR glasses are massive goggles. but this is something that we know DARPA has been working on. DARPA is the top secret research and development group for the US military. They've been working on something called the Envision program. These would be normal-looking sunglasses that can see IR lasers even in full sunlight. Here's what it would look like. You can see the laser sight here. So someone could aim their laser sight at Charlie Kirk's neck, and no one would be able to see the laser except for the person wearing the special sunglasses. I think these sunglasses look very suspicious, and someone should inspect them.
Yeah. Mark said that he grins when Charlie is shot and laughs at him behind the table when he is on the floor dying. And I feel like nobody has investigated this guy. Nobody has questioned Brown Shirt Man or anything like that. Now, let's put all these pieces together. So, one, we see that Turning Point USA itself is trying to change the narrative about what Charlie said about the Iran war before he died. We see that it's very plain and clear. Even freaking Grok had to come in and give people context to let people know that that was an old video that they were sharing, not the more recent one. Two, we know that Erica background is completely different from what she said it was. It looks more like a honeypot operation. We know about her connection to military intelligence. Three, now we're seeing, or at least I am seeing for the first time, that this van that was in the background there just happened to be right on cue so that someone would shut the trunk right after the shot. Why? Then there's the brown shirt guy who, for whatever reason, is not interrogated. Then we go back to Donald Trump and this attempted assassination where he said the bullet grazed his ear. Anybody notice you don't see any mark on his ear? He was walking around with that bandage on, but now you don't see a mark there or anything like that. And it almost makes you wonder if this entire thing was one big military operation. And I mean all of it. I mean, getting Donald Trump in office for foreign policy reasons. Look at what's happening now. Look at what is happening right now. The killing of Charlie Kirk. It makes you wonder. And for Erica, for all her anger about people asking questions about this and her saying that she just wants the Tyler Robinson trial to happen very quickly. Why? What is she afraid that people are going to find and look into? So now it is very clear that somebody has either directed Erica to do it or she did it on her own. But they are now trying to control the narrative. They are putting out an image that is different from what we saw before he died. Remember, he or she who controls the narrative controls the people. And because they know this war with Iran is not favorable among the American people, the majority, they know that they got to do some tweaks or whatever behind the scenes to sell it to people. And that's why you're seeing the false flags on U.S. soil, which I think there will probably be more. That's why you're seeing Turning Point USA put out that old video and don't give you the context behind it. This is why you're not really seeing Democrat politicians really go after Donald Trump in the way that they could with this war. Because the foreign policy decisions, a lot of these things were already made years ago. Problem is, what they did not anticipate the American public being so much against these wars. So they got a problem. So Erica and TPUSA, they're out there doing some shady things, guys. Everybody's coming after them on X. They're doing some shady things. And I'm going to tell you, the fact that they didn't really want cameras in this trial that Tyler Robinson is going through, the fact that the FBI said it's open, shut, don't ask any questions, that should make you more suspicious. Now, whether you believe Brown Shirt Man or anybody else in that video is suspect, for a second, just put that aside. What you really need to focus on is the fact that our government is not transparent. The reason why people are asking these questions is because we have a government that is not transparent. We have a government that has lied to the people, and we have a government that is corrupt. So instead of pointing fingers at the people who are asking questions, you should be pointing your fingers at the US government for not being transparent with the American people. And it's not just the Charlie Kirk issue, it's the Epstein files issue. They've been lying over and over and over again. So we have to find a way to put the narrative back in our hands. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. All right. Darth says, yeah, Iran in the 1950s when the West overthrew the government. Space Ghost says, these people don't have any loyalty. Yeah. AOH says, based on the video, the trajectory of the shot makes no sense with the official narrative. And shout out to Where Is the Love? Thank you so much for being a member for 13 months. DC sniper mode of operation was from the trunk of a car. What am I telling you guys? Thank you for the super chat, Megan. Naftali Bennett said, after Iran, Turkey is next. And Turkey was also mentioned in the Epstein files in regards to foreign policy. Thank you for the Rumble Rant, RB Ham. Whoa, Sabby Sabs is going full RB Ham. Yep, it's the Zyopolyps, and it's just beginning. Buckle up and question everything. And thank you, Laugh. I've always thought the so-called Trump assassination was staged. Immediately after, the security held him up like a target so he could pump his fist. Lots coming out. Thank you, Raphael. My intelligent, lovely, and beautiful sister, how are you? Allow us to tell you how blessed we feel to be watching you every night. Keep it up, sister. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate that. Okay. All right, ladies and gents, let's move on to the next story. This one's a little bit different, but I think it's something that we need to talk about, especially for those of you that are interested in entrepreneurship or any type of business. You know, for a while, there was this food truck craze, and it really kicked things off. I would see all these food trucks at festivals, etc. And for a while, the food trucks seemed to have the best food, just being honest with you. And some of these companies, some of these food trucks, they decided because they were doing so well as a food truck that they were going to become a brick and mortar. From what I've seen, it hasn't really worked out for many of them. It's a different feel, costs more money to have a brick and mortar, and people are finding that out the hard way, unfortunately. One of the most popular food trucks, which was called Slutty Vegan, followed that same path. For those who don't know, Slutty Vegan was created by a woman who's vegan, but she made all the type of fast food that you would love to have, whether it's burgers, chicken sandwich, fries, all those types of things, but for vegans. And from what I was told for years, that Slutty Vegan was everything. People told me the food's amazing. They said, if you're ever in the ATL, you definitely have to check it out. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I heard it was amazing. In fact, apparently the food was so good that she decided to expand the business. And this is where the question comes in. Is it good to sometimes remain small? So Slutty Vegan decided also to become a brick and mortar. And it seems like this is when the trouble starts. You can see it here. She was featured in Fortune magazine, How I Started a $100 Million Fast Casual Restaurant from the Ground Up. Check it out.
Because of my confidence, I got me a lease paying $1,200 in a 650 square foot space. And at my grand opening, I had about 1,200 people. I couldn't believe that so many people would stand out in line to support me. And that's when I knew I had something really big. I was on the front page of the New York Times in the food section. We built a multi-million-dollar business, and that was game-changing for me. Hey, what's up? It's Pinky Cole. I'm 35 years old, and I'm the founder and CEO of the world-famous $100 million brand, Slutty Vegan, ATL, born and bred in Atlanta, Georgia. having a television background, I said, you know what? I know what people watch when they watch TV. They want stuff that's in your face, racy, raunchy, that's going to make them pay attention. But when you think about veganism, veganism has always been known to be pure, flavorless, clean, very green. And I said the two most pleasurable experiences in life is sex and food. If I can make people think about sex and think about food at the same time, I know that I can peel the layer back and educate you about veganism in a way that you've never seen it before.
So notice that looks like an actual burger, right? Like it looks like it's ground beef, but it's not.
I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I grew up in a single parent household. My father did 22 years in prison while my mother worked multiple jobs to make sure that she took care of the family. I can remember my mom working so many jobs and learning how to cook with my grandmother because my mother was always gone working or pursuing her own entrepreneurial endeavors as a.
So did you guys notice that? It looks like real meat, right? Looks like real patties, but it's not. And I think vegan food has come a long way. I am not vegan, but I think it has come a long way, and people have found ways to make it more creative and, you know, not taste like cardboard. We're just going to fast forward a little bit here because I really want to focus on the business. Here you can see it here. So this was the food truck craze.
Took over somebody's lease and I was paying $2,400 a month, which is crazy now because you can barely $2,400 a month. That's the light bill now. So I went to Google and YouTube and I started learning everything I can learn about the restaurant industry. I barely knew what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I barely knew what I was doing. I had the restaurant for about 2 years and then I had a grease fire and literally lost everything in the grease fire. My car got repoed. I got kicked out of my apartment. I went flat broke. I got an opportunity to work in TV again. I was working as a casting director and I was done with restaurants. I was working on a TV show. They had a hiatus and I started delivering for DoorDash. And while I was delivering for DoorDash, I'm like, okay, cool. Ghost kitchens. I've never heard of ghost kitchens, but I see it happening in LA. I realized I was just preparing for what I was about to create just a couple months later. And when they asked me to go to Atlanta temporarily to work on the show, it hit me like a light bulb. And I came up with this crazy ass concept called Slutty Vegan. I didn't have anything written down. I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have a business plan. It was just an idea that sounded good. I started Slutty Vegan.
That's the part I want people to hold on to. She didn't have a business plan, but she just thought it would sound good. Now, why is all this important, right? Let me show you what just happened. Let me bring this up here because now is not good news. Slutty Vegan owner now just filed for bankruptcy. And notice it says reality TV star here as well. And that's because something else also just happened. And you got to kind of wonder if that was part of the storyline as to why they chose her. The news comes days after Cole officially joined the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So she's joined that cast. And it makes me wonder if that's why they chose her, right? Because this was happening. But it says that Pinky Cole, the latest addition to the Real Housewives of Atlanta franchise, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy over her original claim to fame, Slutty Vegan. The restaurateur said she owed around $1.4 million in debt from the vegan eateries operations. WSB-TV confirmed the court filings over the matter, which state that Cole owes $1.2 million to U.S. Small Business Administration. And this is where I have to come in and ask the questions, guys, because is it always good to expand? Right. And I've seen this happen with a couple of food trucks, even right here in the Boston area, in Massachusetts. There's a food truck that's really good as a food truck and they make so much money and they say, hey, how about we open a brick and mortar? And then they decide to put that business in the brick and mortar. And for whatever reason, sometimes it's location, I don't know, other expenses that maybe they did not foresee. But for whatever reason, it doesn't always transfer over to the brick and mortar. So those long lines that they have at the food truck don't necessarily transfer over to the brick and mortar that they move into. And then there's other expenses that come with being in a brick and mortar that you may not have when you are just running a food truck. The other thing that I understand about Slutty Vegan is that they did expand to other locations, and it sounded like they expanded rather quickly. There are also rumors that she wasn't apparently paying staff. I don't know if that's 100% true, but these are some of the rumors that are out there. And I'm just asking the question, is it always good to expand? Because I'm starting to wonder, maybe it's not. Maybe it's okay just to remain small. So let's see here. Hold on. I think it froze there. Okay. So it goes on to say here, when Slutty Vegan launched in 2018, the small but mighty food truck became a massive hit in Atlanta. It was known for its unique and provocative approach to plant-based fast food. First-time and long-time vegan eaters fell in love with the restaurant's burgers and fries. It was an overnight success. It led to more store openings across the U.S., once growing to 18 locations. Cole struggled to keep up with the expanding empire. So they grew to 18 locations. She struggled to keep up with the expanding empire, failing to pay rent on some of the storefronts. And according to TMZ, Cole listed her personal properties to total around $3.7 million, with her monthly expenses equaling to over $41,000 a month. Now, this news comes days just after Cole confirmed her latest venture with the Real Housewives of Atlanta alongside fellow newcomer R&B songstress K. Michelle. So she is now a part of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Eric, can you close this tab? I think it's stuck. That tab. So she's now a part of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And that makes me wonder, maybe she was chosen because this is the storyline she's going to go in with, which is that she felt, she has bankruptcy and maybe she's going to lead with that. Also, there's a check in it to be a part of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. But filing for bankruptcy is no joke. And it's not something that's easy to get out of once you've fallen into that path. Something else I thought was rather interesting is said that Slutty Vegan owner Pinky Cole, she also launched a vegan hoagie shop in Atlanta. So let's
Entrepreneur Pinky Cole is back in the spotlight, launching something brand new, Vogies. It's a plant-based sub shop. It's located on the West End, and Vogies is a concept that Cole says she's been dreaming about for about 6 years. It comes just months after a major comeback following a financial shakeup that temporarily cost her control of her Slutty Vegan empire. Now Cole says she is rebuilding and stronger than ever.
I was tired of going to sub shops and just getting veggies on bread. I wanted to be able to create something that I could appreciate. Slutty Vegan 2.0 is going to look like a lot of things. It's going to look like Slutty Vegan. It's going to look like vegan hoagie shops and so much more.
No doubt it's going to be popular. Vogies is open right now on Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard at the first Slutty Vegan location.
So I don't know what to say other than it just seems like business decisions were not made, right? One of the things that stood out to me is that she said she didn't have a plan. And I think you do need to have one. And the thing that I would say to people that own a food truck is, hey, if you have a food truck and it's doing really well, great. But just because it's doing well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to, transition into a brick and mortar or that you need to expand to all these different locations. One of the things I noticed, and I'm a foodie, I don't know if you guys are, but one of the things I noticed, it seems like to me, when restaurants start to expand to more locations, it almost seems like the quality of the food starts to go down. And maybe that's just my experience, but not everything needs to have some type of expansion. So is there a lesson I think there is to be learned from this? Yeah. Number one, you got to have a business plan. And number two, you don't always have to expand. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Red Cowboy said, yep, she was moving ATL way, a little scammy. Yeah. New York Varsity said, vegan is an excuse to be a snob. It's funny. Gina said, Sabby Sabs just watched a vid claiming that Israel deployed a do. Could you ask Scott if he heard about this? We'll see if I have time. Maybe I can keep that comment there. Megan said, vegan food is often expensive because the ingredients cost so much. You can't just kill a cow and serve it up. Clifford said, I've seen some food trucks succeed in the community food hall setting. Yeah, I've seen that too. No, Roger, that is not my Be More relative. We are not relatives. Oh my gosh. And Sean said, so what the hell is the meat made out of? I don't know. Maybe soy? Maybe tofu? I don't know. And Julio said, so basically she burned through all her money when she was making money and not paying her workers and rent. It's kind of what it seems like. Kinda. We are going to move on to the next story here. Eric, can we go to part 2 of Type VNC? And we're continuing on with the theme, ladies and gents. He who controls the narrative controls the people. That's what we see here. Hold on, I got a message. Oh, yeah. I know about that. Okay, yeah. He was telling me about the heads up. Now we're moving on to the next story here, ladies and gents. If you haven't done so, smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's move on to the next story here, ladies and gents. This is a big one. Everything that's happening with the war in Iran, it's starting to reveal some things about even some of Donald Trump's biggest supporters. And from some faces you may not have expected to see it from, like Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire, has come out unequivocally against the war in Iran. But he's not alone. Marjorie Taylor Greene sounded the alarm on this one. She is blaming the United States and she is blaming Israel. Here's all the people, a lot of them that supported Trump, calling this out.
And Pete Hegseth said this morning, Megan, he said that we didn't start this war. But I hate to argue with the Secretary of the Department of War. America and Israel definitely started this war, and you can't lie that away to the American people. And so, you know how I feel right now? I am irate. I am furious about this. We are nearly $40 trillion in debt. How much is this war going to cost us? We have seen enough of our American troops dead and murdered for foreign countries. And now we've had 4 dead and murdered, just like you said, for Israel and for the Iranian people, not for the American people. And I don't want to see any more dead and murdered. And Pete Hegseth.
Yeah. So one of the biggest lies that has come out since this war with Iran is Pete Hegseth basically saying, like, we didn't start the war. We did start it. Like, they're literally lying to our faces. They think we're dumb, as if we can't see with our own eyes, as if we don't have our own brain, right? But remember, he who controls the narrative controls the people. This time, though, it just doesn't seem to be working because people are searching and seeking out other narratives. People are looking for independent media. They're listening to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They may also be listening to people like this one here, Megyn Kelly, also coming out against the war with Iran.
First and foremost, I, Megyn Kelly, am praying for the troops. I mean, that's where my mind immediately went. The guys and the gals who have to actually carry out this mission. Why again? And put their lives on the line. For whom again? Are the ones who are on my mind. And I prayed for them mightily yesterday and the day before. And I hope you have and will continue to as well. Look, there are massive divisions over what we've done here. And people are going to change their minds over the coming days and weeks, one way or the other. But my own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. I don't think those 4 service members died for the United States. I think they died for Iran or for Israel. I think I understand how this helps Iran perfectly well. I get it. I mean, I hope. Long term, we'll see. But they seem rather jubilant. 80% of the country does not support the Ayatollah. He was a terrible, terrible man. No one's crying that he's dead. No.
So let me show you something here. This is the little tricky thing that Megyn Kelly does. Notice how this is why she's on Sirius Radio, because she still repeats some of the corporate media propaganda. She just told you 80% of Iranians are happy that Khamenei is dead. That is not true. Megyn Kelly isn't going to show you the videos that the rest of us have shown you with all those people out in the street mourning his death. Now, are there some Iranians that are happy about this? Yes. But to say 80%, that is false. She's just repeating what she heard from Fox News. That's why she's on Sirius Radio. So do you see what she does? She does this little, sidestep where like she'll say she's against the war, but she also makes sure that she repeats some of the narrative from corporate media. That's how she gets to keep that job.
Normal person. But our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us. And this feels very much to me like it is clearly Israel's war. Mark Levin wanted it. It's his war. Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, Miriam Adelson. That's obvious. They're the ones who've been pushing us into this. But in case you had any doubt whatsoever, the Washington Post is reporting it explicitly this morning.
It's the U.S. government's war, too. It's Donald Trump's war, too. They are doing it along with Israel. It's not just Israel. Israel doesn't do it without the weapons from the U.S., and the U.S. was also dropping bombs. So it's both of them, right? I think Megyn Kelly really doesn't want to criticize Donald Trump. And I think that's what this is about. I think she still kind of want to be in the club, but notice how she is one of the ones that's coming out saying she's against the Iran war.
Explicitly about why we did what we did and when we did it. In the briefing on Tuesday for the Gang of Eight, which consists of the leaders of the House, the Senate, and each chamber's intel committees, Secretary of State Marco Rubio indicated to lawmakers that the mission's timing and goals were shaped by the fact that Israel was going to attack with or without the United States, according to a person familiar with the outreach to lawmakers. So the only debate that seemed to be remaining was whether the U.S. would launch in concert with Israel or if the U.S. would wait until Iran retaliated on U.S. military targets in the region and then engage. That sounds perfectly right. I mean, I think you knew that before you heard me read it from the Washington Post. So Israel said they were going to do it. Tucker Carlson said this on the show on Thursday. He said exactly that.
Megyn Kelly says she is not in favor of war with Iran. So, of course, MTG, Megyn Kelly, and if you could imagine, of course, Tucker Carlson is not in favor of war with Iran.
First, why did this happen? Now, in this case, there's a really simple answer. This happened because Israel wanted it to happen. This is Israel's war. This is not the United States' war. This war is not being waged on behalf of American national security objectives to make the United States safer or richer. This war is not actually even about weapons of mass destruction, nukes, chem bio. No, this war is waged purely because Israel wanted it to be waged. Now, why say that out loud this early in the conflict? Isn't that dispiriting for, say, American troops fighting this war? Yes, it is.
And I would say this too. Tucker Carlson, very vocal, saying he's against this war. But I would also say to Tucker Carlson, it is also the United States government war as well. Donald Trump wanted this war. Little tidbit from behind the scenes. A little birdie told me that when Tucker Carlson just visited Donald Trump recently, he told Donald Trump not to attack Iran. He told Donald Trump that this would be a bad idea, similar to the way that, Charlie Kirk did or whatever. But Donald Trump not listening to Tucker Carlson the way that he chose to listen to Charlie Kirk at that point in time. But just FYI, he's one of the people that did tell him, please do not do this. Do not start a war with Iran. So you have plenty conservatives here that have a pretty large platform. And in comes this fool, and that is Ben Shapiro, who, of course, is still with the Daily Wire. He seems to be one of the ones that is very happy about what Donald Trump did.
Obviously, I just came back from Shabbat, from Sabbath, to the news of what is going on. And let's just say this. President Trump is the most courageous commander in chief in modern American history. There is no question about this. What he just did is the bravest move by a president of the United States of my lifetime, bar none, without a doubt. Obviously.
So Ben Shapiro is in favor of war with Iran, of course, because this is what Israel wants. It benefits Israel, his beloved Israel. And I want you to think about something for just a second. While Ben Shapiro goes on these rants and tells you what we can't have here in the United States as workers, as part of the working class, you never hear Ben Shapiro say that they can't have those things in Israel. We talk about universal health care, when we talk about a living wage, we talk about these things that our government could be spending money on instead of spending money on these wars. Ben Shapiro says, no, that's socialism, that's communism. He also goes on to tell people that he thinks the retirement age is too low and that people should work longer. But you know what you don't hear Ben Shapiro say? You never hear Ben Shapiro say that Israel shouldn't have universal health care. You ever notice that? I firmly believe that we have agents in this country that are operating on behalf of Israel and have been doing so for quite some time and don't care about what happens to the United States because they have their promised land to go to. I believe Ben Shapiro is one of those agents. I've been saying this for the longest time. Ben Shapiro is Israel first. He's not America first. He believes in the supremacy of Israel. He believes they can do whatever they want to do. And everybody else is just supposed to sit back and accept it because that's the chosen people, which is not true. So Ben Shapiro, I will call him agent. I would call him agent. He is an agent of Israel. That's really who he's fighting for. He's not out here fighting for you. He's not out here fighting for me. He's not fighting for things to be better for people in the United States. He made it very clear who he is. He is Israel first. So I see him as an agent. And that brings up this question about his buddy and co-host, Matt Walsh. Because Matt Walsh is singing a different tune. He is one of the ones that does not want this war. I supported the Venezuela operation, and I'm on board with acquiring Greenland because they both passed the only litmus test I care about. Will it be a net benefit to the United States? Venezuela and Greenland are low risk, high reward. Big wins for our people. We gain much and lose little or nothing. Easy call as far as I'm concerned. So notice, again, don't get on this tangent and start saying he's anti-war because he's not. And don't start saying he's anti-imperialist because he's not. He's totally fine with people getting screwed over and killed or whatever in Venezuela and Greenland because he feels like it's a net benefit to the United States. So don't come away from this thinking that Matt Walsh is like this anti-war hero now because he's not. But listen to this part. I'm not actually an isolationist. I'm just an America First conservative in the strictest sense of the term. Does the benefit for America outweigh the cost? It must, or it's bad policy. This is one of my absolute core political principles and always has been. With this Iran thing, I don't see how the math works in our favor. Or at least it seems highly unlikely that it will work in our favor. And so I'm against it. If that puts me at odds with the administration and with much of the conservative commentariat, conservative commentariat, so be it. I have to stick to what I believe. People who have followed my work for a long time are not remotely surprised by my stance on this. Someone shared a post of his from January 2nd, 2020. I'm not in favor of regime change wars, and I don't want to be the world's police, but taking out a monstrous scumbag who's been killing Americans for decades and staged an attack on our embassy is neither of these. It's appropriate, just, and necessary. Anti-war absolutism is silly. So just FYI, he's not an anti-war, but I guess they were trying to call him out there And he said that's an example of low risk operation. But he didn't stop there. He's been going on and on and on. So far, we've heard that although we killed the whole Iranian regime, this was not a regime change war. And although we obliterated their nuclear program, we had to do this because of their nuclear program. And although Iran was not planning any attacks on the United States, they also might have been, depending on who you ask. And although we are not fighting this war to free the Iranian people, they are now free, or might be, depending on who seizes power. And we have no idea who that will be. The messaging on this thing is, to put it mildly, confused. So that was his way of basically mocking the comments that came from Marco Rubio and, of course, Pete Hegseth, and also, of course, Donald Trump. He's basically pointing out the contradictions that we've been told about this war. Thomas Massie responded to him and said, "I hope you don't get fired for this, because it's true." So you heard what Ben Shapiro said, and you now just heard what Matt Walsh said. There's more. He goes on. How long do you think it will be before Matt Walsh is removed from the Daily Wire, or he removes himself? Because it's Ben Shapiro's project. He's the boss. And if you're not doing things that's favorable to Israel, well, I think we all know how that goes. He goes on. He's been ranting. I know some of my followers here are annoyed at me, but I have to call it like I see it. A basic level of honesty is an obligation that comes with having a public platform. This operation seemed like a bad idea to me before it happened, and I said so. Now that it's happening, I'm not going to suddenly change my tune. It seems like a bad idea to me. I hope I'm wrong, but that's how I see it. He's not done. Now, I'm going to show you what Marco Rubio said that really got Marco Rubio in hot water. Matt Walsh said, so he's flat out telling us that we're in war with Iran because Israel forced our hand. That is basically the worst possible thing he could have said. Let's hear it here.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't.
So here is Marco Rubio basically admitting on Fox News that the United States is in this war because of Israel. That Israel dragged the United States into this war, which is something that Benjamin Netanyahu has been wanting to do for the longest time. He's actually now on record saying it himself that he's been waiting for this for 40 years. This has been all part of the plan. So he didn't like what Marco Rubio said. And I think everybody needs to get ready. So you're seeing what's happening here, right? Some of the more vocal people that were MAGA are criticizing Donald Trump on the Iran war. And what's been very clear to me is it seems to me that Donald Trump and everybody else, they don't seem to that they really had a clear plan. But they got a plan for you. Right now, listen to this. Let me find my cursor here. Trump's new defense plan quietly creates a National Guard response force trained for crowd control and civil unrest, deployable across all 50 states by April 2026. This wasn't in any headline. They buried it. Now connect the dots. Epstein files drop. Names get redacted. Evidence of child abuse gets withheld. A war starts the same week. And now a domestic force trained to suppress the American people is operational by spring. Ask yourself, spring of what? 2026, midterms, the last election cycle that could strip his power before 2028. This is a man actively building the infrastructure to never leave office. Listen to it.
Secretary Hegseth, sir, a memo circulating on social media details the establishment of a National Guard response force that's going to be trained in crowd control and civil unrest and deployed in all 50 states by April of 2026. Can you verify the authenticity of that memo, and do you have any more information on the operations?
I'm not going to answer particulars on something that may be in the planning process, but we definitely do have multiple layers of National Guard response forces, whether it's in each state, whether it's regionally, whether it's Title 10 active duty, whether it's Washington, D.C. We've got a lot of different ways that constitutionally and legally we can employ Title 10 and Title 32 forces, and we will do so when necessary.
Secretary Hegseth.
So, long story short, they are getting ready to unleash the National Guard on the protesters because people are already out there protesting, no war with Iran. They're getting ready to amplify the National Guard in April to come after us right here at home. The same hell that you see them, display against people abroad is the same type of hell they will unleash on people right here in the United States. They don't give a damn. Also, I don't even think Donald Trump is 100% all there. I've been paying close attention, and I'm starting to see some of the same signs that I saw with Biden when he was getting into that dementia type behavior. I'm starting to see some of those same things with Donald Trump. And it makes you wonder who is really driving that ship, because I don't really think it's him. I think he's the face and he's just going along with whatever, but I don't think he's 100% all there. And when we see that split that's happening there with MAGA, I think we just have to go back and we have to look at what he said when he was running for president this time around.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that. I am peace.
A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for a man who wants to end wars, not start them.
We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance.
Kamala's campaigning with warmongers like Liz Cheney. How do you think that is? She picks Liz Cheney, whose father virtually destroyed the Middle East. Liz Cheney, she talks big, I want war. She always wants war. Every time I was with her in the White House, we should attack this nation, that nation, nations that people never even heard of, we should attack. She's a big, tough guy. She sits back in Washington, we ought to go and attack Iran, Iraq. We're going to attack everybody. That's why I broke up with her. All she wanted to do is go to war with everybody. These war hawks, they want to draft your kids to die in wars, and they will never fight themselves. We'll stay around the country for 15 years, just bomb the hell out of everybody, make everybody miserable. Nobody knows why we're there, the wars that never end. These endless wars that we've been in, I've gotten us out of so many. We don't want to.
You see, this is the message that he knew people wanted to hear. So Donald Trump is really good about running on something that he knows people really want to hear, but then not actually implementing that when he wins election, right? So just a flashback of all the things that he said. They were going to end these wars. JD Vance, you saw him also on there, but just keep in mind that JD Vance is, remember, he is a creation of Peter Thiel. He's just playing a role. I'm just telling you now, JD Vance is playing a role just like Erica Kirk is playing a role. These people are actors. I don't know. I don't think they made it in Hollywood. So it's like, you know, they go into politics.
To get into wars. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war. Under Trump, we will have no more wars. No more wars. No more wars. We will have prosperity and peace. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Remember, I'm the president of peace. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. He's going to start a war. I said, no, no, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. I believe that he will attack Iran sometime prior to the election because he thinks that's the only way he can get elected. Isn't it pathetic?
Well, that certainly did age well now, didn't it? Now, a number of people will say, well, Hillary wouldn't have done that. No, there's videos of Hillary Clinton saying that she would absolutely attack Iran when she was running for president. I mean, the foreign policy, for the most part, was written quite some time ago. And I think that's why you really have to get people in there that are not a part of this two-party system. This is General Wesley Clark. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with him. This is years ago when he was on Democracy Now! There was an event here. They were on the ground for that event covering this as well. And General Clark really laid out what the foreign policy plan was many years ago.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." I said, "We're going to war with Iraq? Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Let's go back to those countries again. So pay attention. Iraq, done. Syria, done. Lebanon, sort of done. Israel bombed a school in Lebanon yesterday, by the way. Libya, done. Somalia, sort of done. Sudan, basically done. Because people talk about there's a genocide in Sudan too. And everything that you see happening in Sudan, the genocide and all that stuff, that's connected to Israel too. All of these countries, these conflicts, all lead back to Israel. This is who Israel wanted the U.S. to target.
Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Finishing off with Iran. So here we are.
I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the...
So this is the important part, right? The reason why I wanted you to see this is for you to understand that the foreign policy plan was written a long time ago. And I would say most, if not all, most of the politicians know this exact same plan that I'm showing you. And a lot of times they run on no wars. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. But at the end of the day, they already know the foreign policy plan. They're merely gaslighting the people. Now, do I think some of them feel like, they can actually do something different? Yeah, I think some of them do. But then they get in there and then they realize they're not actually running a damn thing. There's people controlling them, whether they're president or not. And it's the same thing that can be said for these Epstein files. We call it the Epstein class. I mean, they got blackmail on everybody. A lot of these people have done dirty, nasty, filthy things to children. And none of these people are being arrested except for in Europe. This is the game that they've been playing for quite some time, right? And they know that people are not in favor of this. So Daily Wire now has a problem, another problem, aside from losing views and money. But now Matt Walsh, no. Is Ben Shapiro going to call Matt Walsh anti-Semitic because he doesn't want this war in Iran to go forward? Because he doesn't want, the U.S. to be involved? Because all of this is a part of the greater Israel plan. So if you're against it, are you also anti-Semitic, according to Ben Shapiro? It is the agents like Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Richie Torres. It is these people that keep things the way that they are. And for the first time, they're fighting back against a type of pushback that they honestly haven't had to fight back against for quite some time. Or at least actually none at all for Ben Shapiro. He wasn't even a Trump supporter in 2016. People forget this, but he wasn't. Ben just hopped on that train. Ben saw where that money was at and was like, But Matt Walsh speaking out against it. And he's getting a lot of crap from people, like I said, online, because he's speaking out against that. But the reality is, this is the one time I've seen in my life where there's been people on the left and people in the right and people in the center that are saying no war. And I think we can have a big movement around that. Now, there are hundreds of people out protesting in the street right now against this war with Iran. They don't want us to come together over any issue, let alone this one. But the reality is, folks, Marjorie Taylor Greene is correct. When you look around, like I'm seeing all this money go to Israel. Boston gave $10 million to Israel, Boston. But you guys got people sleeping on the streets. You got people being evicted. You got people that don't have heat in their apartment, which is illegal, by the way, but it still happens. You can't take care of people here, but you're taking care of people in Israel. They are setting America up to be a subservient class. Do you guys understand? They are setting us up to bend the knee to Israel. They are taking from us and giving to them. And they'll have everything. The next time somebody tells you they don't want you to say universal health care because that's socialist, that's communist, you tell them to zip it because Israel has it. And it doesn't seem to be socialist and communist when they got it. They just don't want us to have it. That's how they turn us against each other. So they're putting us in second place. You guys get this? Like our own country, where we're supposed to be taken care of. We should be trying to grow and thrive and prosper, just like any other country. And then our government hates on other countries like China, who decides, okay, we're going to make sure that people pretty much have housing. They hate other countries that do this. They hate but they're fine with Israel doing it. They hate other countries that give health care, that give housing, but they're fine with Israel doing it. Hell, they don't even want to give it to you. So what that tells you is that the empire is collapsing. Trump knows it. Hegseth knows it. Rubio knows it. Congress knows. Everybody in DC knows the empire is collapsing. Donald Trump, he feels he's got nothing to lose, so he's just going to burn it all down, because at the end of the day, the goal is to have Israel at the seat of power. That's the goal. In fact, Eric, can we go to Breaking Points on YouTube real quick? I want to show you guys something that Professor Jing just said on Breaking Points. I showed a video of his before on this show, but this part that he says here towards the end, I think is especially important. I'm telling you guys, they are making it so that Israel will be the next economic power. And Israel can't be that way if China is big or if Russia is big economically. They are willing to forego the U.S. empire so that all of that wealth will be consolidated right there in Israel. This is the message I'm trying to get across to people. Okay, here it is. Let me pull this up. I want you to hear what he said. And shout out to Roger Meadows, who brought this to me. It's towards the end here. Here we go.
This is like $5 trillion in indemnity, okay? Or send ground troops to wipe out the Iranian threat once and for all. And I know that there's no political will for ground troops to be used against Iran among the American people. But remember that 78% of American people was against initial strikes against Iran in the first place.
Right. And one of the things that really comes into question, I think, with
We're
all
gonna
of this, when
fast forward here as well, because the reason why I wanted you to hear that part, get to right about here, is because that's something Donald Trump is talking about right now, sending those ground troops in. And I wanted you to hear that because he's willing to sacrifice American lives again for Israel. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. They are willing to sacrifice Americans for this Israel plan. That's insane. No other country is. What the hell is going on here? It's wild. Okay, so listen to this part right about here.
The math on the interceptors that's been talked about for months at this point, and yet Trump still decided to go ahead. What is the calculus that he was making here that led him to take what, already appears to be catastrophic actions?
Right, okay. So this is the key question. Why do they do this? I think there are three possibilities, okay? And I think all three possibilities are valid. The first is that of hubris. If you look at history, this is how empires behave. So the Mindoro kidnapping was quick, successful, and it was adrenaline rush for Trump. And that made him overconfident in the capacity of the American military. Okay, so hubris is a factor, and we see this throughout history. Why did Hitler invade Stalin? Because he conquered Europe really easily, and he thought it was invincible, right? And that led to the destruction of the German army in the Soviet Union. So hubris is a factor. Then you have to look at internal political calculus, where even though America does not benefit from this war against Iran, Trump himself personally benefits. Why? Because the Saudis and Israelis are bribing him to attack Iran. Remember that the Saudis invested $2 billion in the private equity fund of Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald Trump. And the Israelis, through Miriam Adelson, have been financing Trump's political career, right? So Miriam Adelson, a few months back, said that she will put up $250 million if Trump were to run a third term. So Trump is getting a lot of financial and political support from the Saudis and Israelis. Also remember that if this war goes sideways and Trump is forced to use ground troops, he will probably get approval from Congress, and this will give him emergency war powers, which will allow him to influence the midterms. So Trump is thinking about a third term. And I think at the ballot box, he probably won't get it. But if there's a war going on and you can delay elections and you have emergency war powers and people rally around the flag, then he probably will get a third term. And then the last factor that is very important is an eschatological factor, where if you look at the Epstein files, it's clear.
Pause here for just a second. So do you guys understand what he is saying? That Donald Trump may try to find a way for him to have a third term. And if this war is still going on or whatever, if he gets these war powers that he's referring to, he could possibly do that in a way by delaying elections. So remember, guys, this is a midterm year. He's going to try to do everything he can so that Democrats don't take back the House, because he knows if Democrats take back the House, they're going to try to impeach him. He said that. So he said that himself. So this is why I do not put anything past him at this point in time. I really don't. Here's the other interesting part.
That we are run by secret societies. It's clear that the world is run by these individuals who have a lot of power. We don't know who they are, but they control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups. Okay, you have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Sephardim Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. And they believe that Israel, this war in the Middle East, is key to the end times in creating heaven on earth. So it's almost like a script that they're following, even though it doesn't make any geopolitical sense. Okay, so I would say that these three are the best reasons why this is happening.
Wow. Well, sir, I hope you come back.
So the biblical prophecy that they continue to use, right? The end time prophecy, that's also a big part of this. And again, as I told you guys before, we can go to the next part, Eric. As I told you guys before, we don't know if that's true or not. Like, you can have faith and you can believe. And like I told you, there are many books of the Bible. All the books aren't in the Bible, just the ones that they want you to follow. How convenient is that? Then you have to look at who decided which books would go in the final version that most Christians have. You got to take a look at that too. And then you have to take a look at it like, this whole idea of Israel. As I told you, when I grew up in the church, we were learning that Israel is not supposed to be a physical place, not in the Bible. It's supposed to be a spiritual place. But the Zionists got a hold of it and made it what they wanted to be. And so here we go. All Israel is another colonial project with the disguise of a biblical prophecy. It's just more colonialism. That's exactly what this is. And they're using different things about it. So pay close attention to what's happening with corporate media. The way that they're talking about this war, they're lying about it the same way they did with the Iraq war. I'm noticing it all. He who controls the narrative controls the people. Pay close attention. All right, we got one more story before Garland and Scott get here. Rather short one. So let's go ahead and go to some of the comments first, and then we'll dive into that story. All right, Wake Up said, when gas and food goes up, then Americans are going to raise hell. The only people that are raising hell are family members who are going to have to bury their loved ones. Yeah, I heard the gas is already going up. Thanks, Sticky. The executive branch has gone rogue. An entire branch is acting outside of Congress and the Constitution. Tier, the executive is rogue. Thank you, Akut. Glenn interviewed McGregor and pretty much said that Iran ain't going down, but the U.S. is pretty much in deep shit. Yeah. We won't win this. Trump knows that. If he doesn't, he's stupid. He should know that we won't win this. But that's the thing. They're willing to sacrifice Americans so that Israel is the center of economic trade, technology, intelligence, etc. Thank you, Sticky. The real issue isn't parties or individuals. The executive branch itself has gone rogue, and we need to start saying it out loud. Thank you, Peter. The Gulf monarchies might be the ones that fall. Remember, Greater Israel has big ambitions. Thank you, Sean. Wow, Meg, come off the fence. Those splinters will play havoc with you. She is as much an access journalist as Maddow. Turn the news channel off, folks. Find your news with Sabby. Thank you, Ronnie. Everyone needs to read Which Path to Persia. Brian Berlatek talks about this on his show. This has been in the making. Yeah. Emily said, I wonder if it's syphilis. I don't know, but it's something going on with him. Thank you, Fuzzy. Operation Placate Trump's Insanity. And I don't even think it's just that. I think, Trump is, he's an asshole and he's pro-Israel. He was pro-Israel during his first presidential term. But I also do think he ain't got it all together upstairs either. Thank you, Sticky. Tulsi Turncoat, never again. Never again. Thank you, Purse Fanny. They're going to overthrow the 26 elections. I'm telling you, people, I don't put anything past them. I don't put anything past them at this point. And thank you, Sticky. Look up comment Apophis. Trust the science. It's all good, y'all. Maybe they are moving assets. And thank you, RM. In addition, the Bible should not be considered an historical document. Tell it, RM. Will you tell it? Tell it. Tell it to the people. All right. We're continuing on, folks. Again, the theme is he who controls the narrative controls the people. And we already have what I would call a false flag attempt here in the United States in Texas. In Austin, Texas, there was a mass shooting. Now they have more information about the suspect. They are showing his face. And wait till you hear what they just magically seem to find that the suspect had. Let's go ahead and get into it. This took place in Austin, Texas.
Up first tonight, breaking news in Austin. We have some new information tonight about the intense investigation into a mass shooting on 6th Street. 3 people died, including the suspect. It happened at and around a bar called Buford's. It is not far from the Texas Capitol and the UT campus. The university president did confirm today that students were impacted by the attack, but he did not say whether any students were killed. Police say just before 2 o'clock this morning, the suspect drove past the bar several times in an SUV before stopping and firing toward the patio. He had a pistol and a rifle, but police were able to quickly take him down. He has been identified as 53-year-old Injaga Jagnay. Now, 6th Street is, of course, a very busy area, lots of police presence, and officers were there in less than a minute.
East 6th Street is a large party atmosphere and streets are closed. They're opened. We're mitigating a lot of people in that small space. Very proud of that. And it showed that it worked. Again, I feel like a lot of lives were saved.
In the hours since this happened, investigators began searching for a motive, and the FBI says they are looking into whether this was an act of terrorism. Federal agents.
Let's just pause right there. Okay. All right. So they already said that they were looking to see if it was an act of terrorism. And that was before they found what they found. You following me here? Before they found, we'll show you, before they found the items that they found, they already were wondering if it was an act of terrorism. So if you tell yourself it might be an act of terrorism and you want people to believe it might be an act of terrorism, well, it sounds like if you had some items to go along with that, that would fit. We've seen this kind of thing before, where police or FBI, they've been known to plant items to fit what they want it to fit, to tell the story that they want to tell. I mean, it's the same, agency that wants you to believe that Tyler Robinson climbed up on a building, got on a rooftop, shot Charlie Kirk, disassembled this weapon that takes a long time to assemble in the first damn place, put it back in his book bag, changed clothes, went through the woods, unassembled it again. What? Okay, so keep that in mind. I warn you that because Americans, the majority of Americans, no longer stand with Israel, that they would probably try to find ways, and it could be, the they could be anybody. The they doesn't have to be Israel. The they could be the CIA. But there would be false flags that pop up throughout the United States to try to scare Americans into supporting Israel. So keep that in mind. They already were wondering if it was that before they found what they found.
Spent much of the day at a home in Pflugerville, just outside of Austin, where the suspect allegedly lived. WFAA's Cole Sullivan is live for us there right now. So, Cole, what do you know about this investigation?
Teresa, law enforcement just left this house behind me within the last 2 hours or so. We saw both Austin police and federal agents out here. They were out here for most of the day serving a search warrant here, and that's critical in this investigation as they work to determine whether this was in fact a terror attack. And we're learning more information about the suspect in this case, who sources say had a shirt on with an Iranian emblem on it. Here's what.
So he just happened to have on a shirt that had an Iranian emblem on it. How convenient for the narrative that they want to portray. Let's go on further.
What else we know? The Associated Press reports that he was a naturalized U.S. citizen named Njaga Jagnay, 53 years old, killed by police overnight. Sources say that he also had a sweatshirt on saying "Property of Allah." Neighbors in this neighborhood say that he had lived here for more than 8 years, and they had not seen anything unusual until this morning when two Austin police armored SWAT vehicles began rolling down their street. This is video they took around 11 o'clock this morning. As
Pause here. We got to say this because I don't want to forget. Having on a sweatshirt that says "Property of Allah," Allah means God. But again, how convenient for the narrative that they want to portray.
Austin police and the feds surrounded this home.
Because you just don't take that kind of artillery out for no reason. It was pointed down the street. First, I thought he was pointing at me.
We saw a few people after police left walking into this home. A woman arrived after police were here. She spent several hours talking to police. We don't know whether she or the other folks who went into this home were relatives of that suspect. I knocked on the door, and when I did, they said they did not want to talk. Teresa.
Cole, this is all just so very tragic, but do we know what else investigators will be looking for to try to nail down whether this was indeed an act of terrorism?
The search warrants like this are key, Teresa. We know that the FBI won't just be serving physical search warrants on houses, but also on electronics, phones, looking for internet history as well, all part of this calculation. And that's so very important because the special agent in charge leading this investigation says at this point they're investigating as a possible link to terror. They have not said whether it is for sure. We do know that Governor Abbott has ordered additional DPS troopers to head to downtown Austin, and we'll be live on 6th Street for you tonight at 10 o'clock.
So the thing is, guys, the majority, the Islam community is peaceful, and Allah means God. But they say that as if it's something that you should be afraid of without even telling you what it means. But he just happened to have all these things, right? Now, wait till I show you the suspect. And I'm really trying not to laugh, but let me show you the suspect. Here we go.
Condition. Sources identified the shooter to CBS News as Njaga Jagnay, a naturalized U.S. citizen originally from Senegal.
So he is originally from Senegal. So it just like I don't even know where to start with this, guys. I didn't see video footage of the actual suspect. I've seen this picture, and I'm sure if you've saw this, been watching the story, you saw this picture too. I've seen this picture of the guy. I haven't seen any video footage of him actually. And in this day with AI, and this is what I've been thinking about, the way that we're questioning whether something is real or if it's AI, in this day with AI, they're trying to trick people. That's the point. AI can be used for good or it can be used for bad. And I'm very concerned that at some point when people start to realize, oh, I can use AI to make it look like someone did something that they didn't do because this is who I want to take down. And if we get to the point where we can't tell the difference, we're in deep trouble. But they said this 53-year-old guy from Senegal went on a shooting rampage. and had Iran items. Let's go on.
There were indicators that on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism.
The gunman was wearing a sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah" and had a Quran in his vehicle.
Pause. So, property of Allah matches terrorism? A Quran matches terrorism? Do you guys see the narrative that they're trying to push here? They're basically trying to convince you that Islam is terrorism. This is what happens when they control the narrative. Oh, he had something that represented Iran. Okay, so what? If you have an Iranian flag, that means you're a terrorist? Do you see the narrative that they are pushing into the minds of the American people? Very troublesome.
Investigators searching his home north of Austin found an Iranian flag and pictures of Iranian leaders, according to officials close to the investigation.
This is what keeps the intelligence community up at night. Not people directly associated with terrorist groups, but people who become inspired because of things that are happening in the world.
Jason Allen.
And I don't even know if that guy was real. You know, like the guy that just showed up there out of nowhere. He looked like he was behind some, like there was some just pop up blue screen or something behind him. So the thing is this, right? Remember that attack that happened in New Orleans? The beginning of last year, the New Year's Eve attack. The reporter walked through his apartment and she showed everybody, look, he has a Quran here, and the Quran was wide open. Well, it was people from the Muslim community that had to explain to me that Muslims don't leave the Quran open. It was just like everything that you could need to say this guy was following terrorism just happened to be right there in his apartment for everybody to see. How convenient. So we don't know. That's the reality. We really don't know. Here's a little bit more information about him that I want to bring in here. What we know about the suspect in the deadly Austin bar shooting. Let's just jump down to this part here because the other part you guys already heard about. Let's get into who he is. All right. They said that he's a naturalized U.S. citizen from Senegal. Diagne entered the U.S. in March 2000 on a B2 tourist visa. CNN and the Associated Press reported, citing the Department of Homeland Security. It says in June of 2006, he became a lawful permanent resident after marrying a U.S. citizen and was naturalized in 2013. On March 1st, authorities raided a home in Pflugerville, Texas, a city just north of Austin. Davis said there were indications that that's where Diagne was living at the time of the shooting. Public records show a San Antonio address for Diagne and an address for relatives in Pflugerville. Federal officials probing possible, again, terrorism links. So here we go with them trying to connect it to terrorism. And the big key things here is an Iranian flag and a sweatshirt that said property of Allah on it. So this is what I was saying before, how certain symbols just automatically now they point to and say that means that person is linked to terrorism or a Quran or whatever. These false flags are being done on purpose. The whole idea is to scare Americans into believing that Islam is bad, Muslims are bad, Iran is bad, all these, anybody but Israel. You ever notice that? Everybody in the Middle East is bad except for Israel. So keep that in mind. These things wouldn't be happening if the majority of Americans still stood with Israel. Israel has been embarrassed on the world stage. And it's not just, South Africa taking them to, the international court, taking them to The Hague. That in itself is embarrassing. But all the protests that erupted all over the world against them. They are no longer admired the way that they used to be. And I think that that itself was only a matter of time anyway. So we'll have to wait to find out more information about this. But all we know right now is that they put up some guy's picture and said this guy was linked to terrorism. And we found this and this. How do we know those things existed and they weren't planted there? And even if they were there, so what? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves, guys. We have to pay close attention to everything that is going on. And it's only going to get crazier. I'm telling you, it's only going to get crazier. If you think that Israel won't use some type of attack on us, you are wrong. In fact, the same way that Rachel Maddow and what's the girl's name? Faulkner. Rachel Maddow and Faulkner from Fox News are trying to tell you that Iran is going to come after and attack Americans. The same way that they're telling you that about Iran, which their missiles can't reach us anyway, it would actually be Israel that would be the one to attack us. Their missiles can reach us. They have a nuclear weapon. They can always use the Samson option. They can strike in different ways, including these false flags. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Hey, all right. Shout out to Joseph George for gifting 10 Sabby memberships. Congrats to those of you who received those. Thank you, Joseph. RB says, we don't even know if that guy they said did the Texas shooting really exists. That pic could be AI for all we know. There you go. We don't know. Thank you for the super chat, Michael. I'm definitely running against an Israel agent here in MS03. I know you are a bit disenchanted with Dems, but I hope to be one that could earn your support. P.S. Love my Sabby mug. Well, you're welcome to come onto the show just like others have. I don't know how, the viewers will feel about that, but you're welcome to come onto the show. I'm not one of those people who's going to be like, you can't come on. Thank you, Michael Duke, for the super sticker. Michael in the house. Fuzzy Ball says Muslims aren't allowed to wear anything with Allah on it. Oh, interesting. Thank you, Beth. Happy birthday, Sabby. Mine is Saturday, March 7th, B-Day twins. Well, my birthday is actually March 8th, but I'm celebrating it on that Saturday. But Pisces season. Thank you, Christopher. Have you ever seen the movie The Rothschild come out in 1934? I have not. Sounds like one I need to check out. I need to check that out. Thank you, Sticky. I've seen The Suspect Bring Me DoorDash. Okay. I don't know what to say about that. JB says using prejudice to manufacture consent. Yeah. And thank you for the super chat. A preposterous mythology. Forget how devout Muslims wear sweatshirts with the Allah written on it, like it's not pretty strictly forbidden, frowned upon to do so. And shout out to Leroy for gifting, for being a member for 54 months. It's not real. It's like, if you don't admire me, then fear me. Exactly. Thank you, Sasha, for the super sticker. And thank you for the super sticker, Michael and HBD. Happy birthday. Thank you. Okay. All right. I think Garland's here a little bit early, but I can bring him in when he's ready. And then Scott will be coming in as well. So let's go ahead and bring in Garland. All right, ladies and gentlemen, special guests tonight are Scott Ritter. He is a former weapons inspector. You guys have seen him on here before and many other shows. And Garland Nixon, who is the host of the Garland Nixon Show. Let's go ahead and bring in Garland, and Scott should be here right at 9. What's going on, Garland?
All good. Well, I mean, as good as can be. You get the picture. But I mean, yeah, doing well.
All right. We have quite a bit to talk about. I want to start off with this video here, and then we'll bring Scott in as well. This is a message here from the Pentagon. So this guy here, he was on CNN News, and I do want everyone to hear what he said about the statement from the Pentagon and this war with Iran?
Yeah, Caitlin, just like most of the administration's explanations for why now, why was this operation against Iran launched now, this briefing happened in private, but we're told that Pentagon briefers did make a stark acknowledgement, and that was that no, there was no indication that Iran was preparing to preemptively strike U.S. bases in the region in anticipation of some sort of an attack from American and Israeli forces. And that's something that senior administration officials had said on Saturday that they believed was true, and that was something that contributed to the timing of this operation. So raising more questions still as the president we haven't heard from him about his reasoning, his justification, and his plan going forward as this military operation continues.
Okay, so this guy basically just dropped the bomb, right, on national television and told everyone that the Pentagon said that Iran was not an imminent threat to the United States. I want to get your thoughts on that, Garland.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest. There's nothing that's been said by the Trump administration or the media, including CNN, in the last several months that was true. Not one statement. Hey, there's Scott Ritter.
Hey, Scott.
Prior to the start of this operation, of this war, the Pentagon came out basically, and I don't know if they leaked, but it pretty much came out that the people making the decision were told probably not a good idea. This might not work out well. So the word was out that the Joint Chiefs of Staff were against it. One of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was literally fired. And now, I mean, they haven't said even their original arguments. It's about nuclear weapons. Do you remember when Donald Trump was asked? He was asked, and a member of the press said to Trump, but Tulsi Gabbard just came out with a report and said that they don't have a weaponized nuclear program. And he says, I don't care what she said. In other words, who cares if this stuff is true? This has been the whole thing with the U.S. foreign policy. They don't care. Now, CNN doesn't care. They've repeated these lies. Now that the ship's going down, the rats are jumping off the sinking ship, including CNN, who were always in favor of this crap and pushed every lie. And now all of these neocons, and I saw Bill Kristol tweeting, well, I don't know, we probably did. Why are we doing this anyway? The rats are jumping off the sinking ship, and they're going to leave Donald Trump, the people that helped to drag him on here, they're going to hang him out to dry as the scapegoat, because this thing is a catastrophe of biblical proportions. Hopefully not, but it has the potential to be.
Well, let me bring you in, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Ritter, former weapons inspector. I want to show you guys this here. I don't think Donald Trump was prepared for this. Iran hit 14 countries in one night. You can see a map here of all of these targets here. I'll get to the Saudi Arabia part a little bit later because there's so much different information coming from that angle. But I want to show you guys the look on Donald Trump's face. Check this out. Scott, what are your thoughts? To me, it looks like Donald Trump does not look I don't know. He doesn't look confident in that video.
Well, I said that from the start when you take a look at the video that was released in Mar-a-Lago announcing the beginning of this conflict. It was just extraordinarily low energy. Now people can say because it was at 2 a.m. and after a long day. Do you remember when Donald Trump was campaigning for president? He was putting in unbelievably long days. I mean, he was just traveling here, there, and everywhere, but he would finish each day doing a rally. And these rallies were high energy events. And whether you liked the guy or not, you just had to sit there and go, wow, there's some energy there. And you could see he was excited, forceful. Announcing this war, he was just low energy, not enthused. And he's been that way ever since. I think that this is a conflict that was thrust upon him. There's a story going around when Bill Clinton first met with Benjamin Netanyahu after he became president. When it was done, he was shouting at his staff, who the hell does he think he is? I'm the president of the United States. How can he talk? But the point is, as far as Benjamin Netanyahu is concerned, you're just a client. You're a client of the Israeli enterprise, and you're here to do Israel's bidding. And I think, Benjamin Netanyahu visited Donald Trump. That's when apparently the decision for this conflict was made. After that point, Trump began the diplomatic perfidy, using diplomacy as a way to have Iran drop its guard yet again before a surprise attack. But he, as Garland said, he was confronted by, his generals who said no, but it was too late. He had already said yes. He had already told Netanyahu yes, that it was going to happen. He was trapped by a number of things. I've said this before, that once you start deploying that many troops into the region, the war becomes automatic. The decision's already been made. And so here's a situation where I think many people are telling him that this is a bad idea. And I think deep inside he knows it's a bad idea, but he was trapped. He literally, had already made the decision. There was nothing to get out. So I don't see this president being in love with this war. And I think you're going to see not just continued low energy, but he's going to start to lash out, because I think he understands that unless a miracle happens, his presidency is over, literally. I mean, we speak of regime change. This is not only the end of Donald Trump's presidency, because he will lose the midterm elections, but he's probably going to lose the midterm elections decisively, not just losing the House, which guarantees impeachment, but losing the Senate, which could bring about conviction. Donald Trump is literally staring a jail cell in the face. Everything that he fought for is about, has been put at risk here. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I think that's what you were looking at. You're looking at a man coming to grips with the fact that he was compelled to make a decision that will be the end of his political legacy.
Well, speaking of this, some weird things happen in Saudi Arabia that I have to point to, because there have been strikes all over. One of the things that did happen, one of the oil refineries in Saudi Arabia, the Aramco refinery, was hit. I just want to show everybody this picture here. Yeah, so that's one of the oil refineries that was hit there. And then, but there's more. Another thing that happened was that the U.S. Embassy was also hit in Saudi Arabia, for people who didn't see this. Yeah, you guys can see the gist of that there. And then another thing that happened, and this was just earlier, the U.S. consulate was hit in Dubai. Let me show you guys this one.
Hour or so, that threat at the U.S. consulate in the east of Saudi Arabia was still in place. So a level of intelligence seeing these threats coming. But to your point, the ability to interdict missiles coming at U.S. consulates and embassies seems to be diminished. Look, take Riyadh here, the capital of Saudi Arabia, yesterday as an example. 4 drones get through to and hit in and around the U.S. embassy here, yet 5 drones fired at the massive Saudi military airbase just outside of the capital. Those were all brought down. The 2 drones that were fired at the big Saudi oil refinery near Dhahran in the east of the country, 2 drones fired there. They were shot down. Some debris did set fire to oil facilities, but it seems that there is a weakness or a hole in the defensive systems around.
Yeah, weakness or a hole in the defensive system. And then I have to show you what Tucker Carlson said that he heard happened in Saudi Arabia, and I want to get your take on this.
So it's probably hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis be committing bombings in two Gulf countries, which are also being attacked by Iran? Aren't they on the same side?
Garland, I'll pass it to you, and then I'll pick up with Scott here. Who made these attacks? The Iranians were saying that they did not attack the embassy in Saudi Arabia. What is happening here? Was that Mossad, or what is going on?
Well, a couple of things. So far, I have not seen any attacks that the Iranians have made that they have denied. They've been pretty open. We hit this. In fact, prior to the beginning of this operation, they specifically said what they were going to hit, and they've been pretty consistent with hitting the things that they said they were going to hit. So I suspect that there is a certain level of desperation. I suspect there's some false flag operations, either U.S. intelligence or, perhaps British intelligence, perhaps Israeli intelligence. But it would only make sense that there would be some intelligence operations and some false flag operations going on, such as this. I don't know. Again, the fog of war, you really don't know. Additionally, at times there are drones that could be fired by, for instance, there's various groups in Iraq that are, kind of private militia kind of things. You never know who any of those could fire at. So there's a lot of various parties that could have fired. Could be false flags. And again, it could be various militia groups who are firing here. And this is the fog of war. There's going to be munitions flying all over the place, and you're not always going to know where they came from.
Okay. Scott?
I mean, there's just not enough data for me to draw a conclusion one way or the other. What we do know is that Iran has made a decision that there's not going to be an escalation ladder, that they're not going to start low and escalate up, that they went all out at the beginning. We know that the United States and Israel's goal and objective is the end of the Iranian government, the collapse of the Iranian regime. Iran's goal is, because this is existential, it's not just survival. Iran is looking to win, and victory will be measured by driving the United States out of the Middle East. Iran's goal is to destroy the totality of the military infrastructure, all of the bases, destroy, not damage, destroy. And also eliminate the American diplomatic footprint. So you see extensive attacks against embassies, consulates, CIA stations, etc. And so, the attack on Riyadh would be consistent with that target deck. As Garland said, it's not just Iran, but there are other actors out there that are sympathetic to Iran that could have done this. I don't know about false flags and things of that nature. Forensically, it's just when a Shahed 136 hits a target, it leaves debris, and I don't know how good the Mossad is. Can they doctor that scene and get away with it? Because it's not just about making something blow up, it's about making something blow up convincingly. So there's too much unknown there. What I will say is that the Iranians are engaged in a war-winning strategy designed to excise the American cancer from the Middle East, and all the targets that are being hit seem to do that. Look at Aramco. The signal that they're sending is that, they've struck Qatari natural gas. They're not producing natural gas right now. They stopped shipping it. That's where Europe gets its gas nowadays. That's where the rest of the world. It's not being shipped. Look at the price of gas going through the roof. They're blowing up the pipeline that the United Arab Emirates used to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. Look at England. The price of gasoline doubled. They blocked the Strait of Hormuz. That's 22% of the world's energy not moving. They've said not a single barrel of oil is going to make it to market out of the Middle East. They're strangling not just the world, but they're strangling the Gulf Arab states as well, whose economies are totally dependent upon this. So it wouldn't surprise me if this was Iran, because it's consistent with the Iranian goal and objectives.
Well, here's something I wanted to show you guys as well. Saudi Arabia feels as though they have been abandoned by the U.S. They said, the gentleman here said, Saudi political analyst Salman al-Akili on Al Jazeera says, America has abandoned us and focused its defense systems on protecting Israel, leaving the Gulf states that host its military bases at the mercy of the Iranian missiles and drones. I'll show you guys here. It's not in English, so everyone have to read along.
الدفاع الأمريكي مركز على إسرائيل دون دول الخليج التي تقع فيها كثير من القواعد العسكرية. وما في شك أنا في تقديري أعتقد أن هناك يعني نوع من العتب الخليجي على الحليف أو الشريك، إذا وصفناه بدقة، الشريك الأمريكي الذي يركز على أمن إسرائيل.
So he said, our ally, our partner, the U.S., is focusing on the stability and the security of Israel. So they feel abandoned. And I want to get your take on that. You guys go ahead and jump in.
Well, a message to the side chick. The U.S. ain't leaving her wife for you. You know, I'm sorry. I know they said, yeah, Israel's over. I'm going to leave her and I'm going to go. No, that's not the way it works. You're being used. You're there for one reason only, and you're being used for that reason. And now, right now, they're going home. Oh, there's something wrong. Oh, there's a snowstorm coming. They're going home to their wife. Shovel your own snow. Handle your own business. You are there to be used. And shockingly, what the shock to me is that they expected something else. They are an expendable asset. Welcome to the real world. Good. I'm glad to see them learn this.
Scott.
Yeah, I can't come up with a better analogy than that, so I'm going to let Garland run with that one. But it's the truth. You know, the Gulf Arab states for several decades now have been hiding behind, this. First of all, the thing that makes them relevant in the world is, wealth, and they have a lot of it because of the energy. So they're very rich, stability that comes with the wealth, and security. And the security comes from the shield provided by the United States. The United States has sold them billions of dollars of modern weaponry, and the United States has a military presence in the Gulf that dates back to Jimmy Carter and the Carter Doctrine about deploying American military resources to protect the energy of the Persian Gulf from the Soviets, from the Russians, from the Iranians. And that was it. Look at the United Arab Emirates. It's not just Saudi Arabia. The United Arab Emirates spent $2 billion on American ballistic missile defense systems. And, when they bought it, they were thinking, Operation Desert Storm type missile expenditures. During Operation Desert Storm, the Iraqis fired 49 Scud missiles during the entire conflict into Israel. Iran fires that in an hour. So they bought all these missile interceptors, and now they're dealing with the fact that they're running out on day 3. And so they turned to the United States and said, we need more interceptors. And the United States won't even answer their call. Because in the United States is, because one, the United States is running out of them, but more importantly, Israel's running out of them. So the United States is getting ready to draw down our defensive capabilities in Korea, Japan, and the Pacific at a time when, according to the National Security Strategy document, we're supposed to be seeking conventional military overmatch of China, meaning we're supposed to be intimidating the Chinese into not doing anything in the South, China Sea or in Taiwan, because we're so overwhelmingly militarily powerful. And now we're just going to draw down those defenses, and they're not going to our Gulf Arab allies. Again, Garland hit it just right. These people thought that the U.S. was going to leave their wife and take him home as a trophy wife, and they turned out that U.S. isn't leaving their wife. Israel is there, and these people are left alone, and this is the reality. But this is going to play into the hands of Iran. Because now that there's this wake-up call with the Gulf Arab states, when they realize not only that they've been left at the altar, so to speak, but that there's no future. The United States it was all a lie, this concept of a security shield, et cetera. The United States will never be able to protect them. I think the Gulf Arab states are going to be compelled to eventually pressure the United States to leave the region. I think, first of all, when you have your military infrastructure being destroyed, all the bases that the U.S. had are being destroyed. We're talking about $100 billion worth of infrastructure. That means that when this ends, the U.S. can't just simply return. There's nothing to return to. You've got to rebuild. And the Gulf Arab states just aren't going to let them rebuild. The Gulf Arab states say, nah, don't come home. We don't want you. And it's not just the military, it's the diplomatic. We get back to the embassies. We have huge embassies in these regions. Why? Because the embassies are used for a variety of things, defense contracts, CIA presence. These embassies are being shut down and destroyed. And again, when this war ends, the U.S. is going to have to rebuild embassies, and nations are going to say, well, you don't get to have that prime property anymore. We'll give you, the one house lot on the end of, South Street. I think what we're seeing is the strategic defeat of the United States being played out before our very eyes.
And Sabby, if I could use that unsavory metaphor a little further, you will forgive me. And if Saudi Arabia, if Saudi Arabia is a side chick, Ukraine now is nothing but a cheap hooker who's addicted to crack, and you gave Uncle Sam the clap. That's all you are now. He can't stand you. He doesn't even want to see you again. That's all Ukraine is, a drug addicted hooker. It's ridiculous. With venereal disease. That's what literally Trump called what's his name today? P.T. Barnum. He says, P.T. Barnum's giving them money. You get nothing anymore. You're not getting any money. You're not getting any weapons. And you know what? Europe is going broke. They're screaming around, where can we find gas? Oh, geez. Europe is not going to give you $90 billion. They're not giving you anything. It's over. You're going to get surrounded in a cauldron. Zelensky, you should be on the phone right now with Moscow saying, please have mercy on us. Ukraine is finished.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I have to show this part. This was probably the most crazy thing I heard earlier today. U.S. troops were told Iran war is for Armageddon, return of Jesus. Apparently, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but apparently troops were told that Donald Trump said he had been summoned by Jesus to bring forward Armageddon. And this is why I point to this. Professor Jing has been talking about this as well. The U.S., I feel like Donald Trump knows the U.S. Can't win, but he's willing to, I feel like he's willing to sacrifice American troops for Israel. Scott?
Well, clearly he is willing to sacrifice American troops for Israel, but he's also willing to sacrifice American security and the security of our allies. The only ally he's not willing to put at risk is Israel. Although Israel is, when we suffer a strategic defeat, Israel will be put at risk. Again, I can't beat Garland's crack hoe reference, so I'm not even going to try. But the reality is that Europe is done. I mean, Europe committed economic suicide by cutting itself off from cheap Russian energy, and now they've been paying the price with higher energy costs. Their energy costs are just going to go through the roof right now. that 90 billion that Ukraine thought they were going to get, it's gone because there is no money anymore. Europe is literally done. We now are seeing Europe starting to say, we need to take another look at Russian energy. Imagine that. Europe just a week ago was saying, we're in for our, 450th round of sanctions, and we're going to shut down Russian energy and all that. And now Europe's saying, we need to take another look at Russian energy because they are facing literal economic catastrophe. In the eyes, what you started off with this story about the American commanders speaking about Armageddon and stuff. This is a disturbing trend that's been happening for some time now. You guys may not remember General Boykin. He was a Delta Force squadron commander, wounded, and in the Black Hawk Down thing in Somalia. Went on to become a general officer. He was notorious for talking about the Crusader mentality, especially after 9/11, and that we were a Christian crusading nation going after the infidel, things of that nature. At that time, he was put in his place. But today, we have a Secretary of Defense that literally has Crusader crosses tattooed on his chest. And we have a nation of Christian Zionists and evangelicals who, have this end of days philosophy. And it's very bad because the military is not supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be apolitical, and we don't have a state religion. But now we have, commanders now. I mean, the Air Force Academy was one of the worst. For a while there, the Air Force Academy was literally a Christian cult. Cadets would come in, and there were secret Christian societies that you have to become a member of, hazing, the whole works. Because these Christian fundamentalists had taken control of the U.S. Air Force. But they've taken control of, for instance, U.S. Army Special Forces, Special Operations Forces have become sort of a Christian death cult. And now we're seeing that commanding officers are the same way. This is not what we should be doing. We shouldn't be rallying around, a God is great, type mentality. We aren't the Crusaders. We're Americans. And we should be defending the Constitution, not preparing for Armageddon.
Yeah, and just to let people know, so because the Supreme Leader has been killed, they were trying to meet to vote for a new Supreme Leader. And Israel, this is from Dropside News, they said that Israel strikes the Assembly of Experts during that secession vote. You guys can see the aftermath of that here. They won't even let them vote for Yeah, so they won't even let them vote for a new leader. But another thing that I think is really needs to be said is obviously they don't want them to pick a new leader. They want the West to decide who that leader is going to be, I would say. But then also that I do think there has been, they underestimated Iran. Some of these hits that I saw that Iran made were powerful hits. And for people who are not aware, the Iron Dome doesn't protect everything. Missiles can still get through the Iron Dome. I saw Tel Aviv get some pretty powerful hits as well. So Iran has just been pow, 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 firing back. And that is, of course, in response also to the 150 something schoolgirls that were killed by the U.S. and Israel. I pass to you, Garland.
Well, what we're seeing now is that the air defense, and this has been discussed now for several years, particularly in light of the performance or lack thereof of the Patriot air system, air defense systems in Ukraine, and that is that the U.S. and the Western air defense systems are woefully lacking. They're just not that good. They haven't worked well, and now they've gone into a major conflict with a country that has a significant offensive surface-to-surface missile program with poor air defenses. And this could be expected. I believe that is why the people at the Pentagon were, trying to dissuade the civilian leadership from taking this action. I think they knew that they had some problems. I mean, keep in mind, they had 2 aircraft carriers. and they went after the Houthis, and they got ran out of the Red Sea. These are the Houthis. This was not, Iran. So it should have been clear that basically with 1.5, one of them, okay, they had the Abraham Lincoln. The Iranians claim to have struck that. It seems to have left the area. We don't know for sure. But the other one, the Gerald Ford, the one that had the sewage problem, is off the coast of Israel. I think they're supposed to be using their airplanes to interdict incoming missiles. Not doing so great a job right now there either. And I think, and if you think about it, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising. Stopping an incoming ballistic missile, oftentimes they're moving at near hypersonic speed, at least high supersonic speed, is effectively like shooting a bullet with another bullet. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And particularly when you're overwhelmed with drones and duds and flares and everything these days. So it's very difficult to do. They haven't been able to do it. It was a foolish move, and now they're paying what would be the obvious price. And now, I don't know if you've heard, supposedly the French are sending their only aircraft carrier. And I'm like, well, I hope they're bringing white flags, because that's the only thing that's going to be of any value. I mean, if it's the French, I'm thinking to myself, they're going to surrender now. I mean, that's what you would call the French in for, so you could surrender on their decks. But on the deck of the aircraft carrier. But at any rate, I would imagine right now, I don't think the Iranians are scared. I think they're just like, oh, good, we can't wait till it gets in range. I mean, if I were the French, I'd be like, I only got one. I can't spare it.
Yeah,
One last thing. You know what that is? The French are playing with fire. 30% of France, due to all of these regime change wars and the influx of refugees from countries that they attacked and screwed all up, France is like 30% Muslim now. I mean, what happens if they declare jihad or something like that in France? They'll burn the country down. These people are fools.
Yeah, I think Macron has his own problems he needs to worry about in his own country.
Beat the hell out of him most of the time.
In his own country. I know. But Scott, I was wondering, we heard about the death toll of the U.S. soldiers. I'm getting reports from other people in the background that is saying that the U.S. media is not honest about the number of American soldiers that have been killed. I've heard that number is way greater. What are your thoughts on that?
Before I do that, I just want to comment on the destruction of the Assembly of Experts building. It was empty at the time. So it was, all the people sitting there going, look, they're never going to get the Assembly of Experts has already elected a new supreme leader. It's Ali Khamenei's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, handpicked by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander, at least put pressure on. He's far more conservative than his father. And, so there is a new supreme leader in place. So reflect on Donald Trump's ridiculous rambling about, well, I killed the first wave, the second wave, third wave's up. I'll pick the next leader of Iran. They're calling me to find out. I mean, the man is delusional. And the Iranians, there will be no regime change. Their constitution has kicked in. It's a constitutional process, and the Constitution has done what it's supposed to do, provide a vehicle of succession. So there's now a supreme leader. The Assembly of Experts worked. But the other point is that we bombed a building. Everybody's looking at all the imagery coming out of Iran right now of things going boom. We're bombing empty buildings. I just want everybody to understand that. Our target deck appears to be based upon bombing known locations or locations that are suspected of something. For instance, we're blowing up missile production facilities. But as an Iraqi minister once told me, the last time we were in the business of blowing up buildings in the Middle East, in Iraq, he said, Mr. Scott, you Americans are really good at blowing buildings up. You're really good. And we're really good at pouring concrete. But when you blow up a building, it's empty. We've evacuated it. And when our concrete cures, we put the stuff we evacuated back in, and we're back in business. And we can play this game as long as you want. And they did for many years. We never really effectively degraded their capabilities until we removed Saddam Hussein from power. Well, there won't be regime change in Iran. That is absolutely certain. And what we're blowing up today is just empty buildings. The Iranians have evacuated everything, whether it be production equipment or the 88 members of the Assembly of Experts. They're not in that building. They're somewhere else doing business. But our target deck is woefully inadequate. We're blowing up empty buildings. We're not achieving the results we want to achieve. The president's operating under illusions of success that aren't manifested in reality. So now we get to the question you spoke about the schoolgirls, the tragic death of these schoolgirls. How was that building struck? Let's go back and reflect on what I said. When I was involved in Desert Storm, that was a long time ago, but it was the last time we did a major strategic air campaign against a Middle Eastern country. The target deck that we were using to begin the conflict was very well developed, meaning that when I had a target folder of a place on the ground that was going to be bombed, it was backed by an intelligence folder that was very thick, meaning we had looked at the target, evaluated the target, confirmed that the target was what we said it was. We decided, what the building construction was, what the desired effect was, what kind of munitions, where we wanted the munitions to hit, the whole thing. Now, later on in the conflict, as we blew up all the known targets, we started shifting to follow-on targets because we weren't killing anything because everything was evacuated. And our target folders, the support data became thinner and thinner and thinner until at the end of the war, we were just making stuff up. I mean, you see a school bus in Western Iraq, blow it up. Why? Because it's big enough to ostensibly hold a Scud missile, even though it couldn't. What we've done here is we're hitting the bad targets up front because we don't know what we're bombing in Iran. We simply don't know where anything is. We are making it up. The girls' school that we hit, I guess a decade and a half ago, used to be a Revolutionary Guard command, part of a Revolutionary Guard command facility. And they closed that down. The part where the girls' school is got cut off and turned into a school, converted into a school. And it's been a school for some time now. And there is no Revolutionary Guard command activity nearby. But our database identified the building as a former Revolutionary Guard command facility. And so now when we have a target set that says suppress the Revolutionary Guard command's ability to, put down demonstrations, we're hitting all the targets related to Revolutionary Guard command. And the system, probably AI assisted, is going through the data and spitting out buildings that had any association with the Revolutionary Command. And so this building got spit out and got put into the target deck with nobody looking at it. This is the danger of AI assisted anything, because AI doesn't think. When people talk about artificial intelligence, there's no intelligence involved. It's simply programmed data manipulation. So when you have a big enough data set and you program certain parameters, it'll just spit out the results. It's like a giant Google search. And that's what happened here. And there's no analyst who sat there and pulled the target aside and did the did the background, did the real work, the work that I used to do, digging deep into it, finding out, building construction, blueprints, what's the most recent intelligence? Do we have, signals intelligence, communications? Have we seen troops moving in and out? Or are we uncertain about what this thing could be? There's this activity there. What are these little shadows here? Those children's shadows in the photographs. Why are children at this is the deeper, but we didn't do that. We are running one of the most shallowly thought out, intellectually vacant military campaigns possible. When we speak of regime change, we know this because anybody who has studied Iran, me, I don't claim to be an expert. I mean, there's people out there who speak Farsi and all that, but I've been to Iran. I've met with senior Iran. I've met with the president of Iran. I've met with the foreign minister of Iran. I've met with Zarif. I know these people. I've studied their religion. I've studied their faith. And so I know that when we speak of regime change in Iran, the worst thing you could do is kill the supreme leader. Because I know that if you kill the supreme leader, the system kicks in. And first of all, you've killed the equivalent of the Pope. Imagine the Catholic faithful waking up in the morning, finding out that Israel killed the Pope. Are they going to sit there and say, oh my God, we're defeated? Or are they going to rise up in the street and rally around and wait for the Vatican to pick the next Pope and renew their faith? Well, that's what happened in Iran. We want people to rally in the street and say death to Khamenei. Instead, we have millions of people in the street mourning his death and elevating him to a martyr, ensuring that we will never topple this regime. This is intellectually stupid. And this is the totality of the American approach to Iran today. We are bombing empty buildings. We are not achieving any meaningful result. We are fooling ourselves. And every day the Iranians prove just how stupid we are. And now they've buried over 180 children, schoolgirls, murdered by the United States, murdered by Israel, because we are too dumb to live. We are literally a nation of oxygen thieves. We don't belong on this planet because we have now taken the most powerful military in the world and we are committing mass murder. We're not even getting close to achieve what we want. And we have this delusional, orange-faced, narcissistic madman in charge, this cult of personality. We've ceased to function as a constitutional republic. You know who functions as a constitutional republic? Iran. Iran is a better constitutional republic than we are. Iran is a more fundamentally sound democracy than we are. We have a Congress, a Speaker of the House that just basically punted on his constitutional responsibility about war. He needs to read not just the Constitution, but the Founding Fathers' thoughts and the what are the the Federalist Papers. Reread Federalist Paper 51 and talk about the congressional responsibility to declare war. It's not optional. It's not we'll do it when it's convenient. It's mandatory. And they punted. He's saying that because this is defensive. I mean, he's coming up with word salad to explain why Congress isn't doing their job. And we have a president who literally told the Supreme Court to pound sand on tariffs. The Supreme Court said what you're doing is unconstitutional. And the president said, I don't care. What are you going to do about it? And Congress should be stepping in and they're doing nothing. So we don't function as a democracy anymore. We are not even close. We are a cult of personality, and we're going to war against a nation, an Islamic Republic, that is more of a constitutional republic, more democratically accountable. The Assembly of Experts that was bombed. Do you know that they're democratically elected? Do you know who appoints the Assembly of Experts? The Iranian people. Every election, they appoint it's like the Senate. You vote for a different slate, and so you have rotating point. But the people put these people in power. The Assembly of Experts operates in accordance to the Constitution. They didn't sit there and meet in secret and do things. They met because the Constitution demands it. And they picked the supreme leader as a constitutional figure held accountable to the rule of law, unlike our orange-faced madman. Sorry, I just went off on her.
It's okay. I was just gonna say that just to show people how much they care about you, and I'm gonna pass this one to you, Garland. This was something that came through Tuesday morning. Secretary Rubio in the State Department urges Americans to depart from the countries below using commercial transportation. Look at all the countries they're telling people to leave, and pay attention to these countries, right? Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza, telling people to leave Gaza. Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, UAE, and Yemen. Those are all the countries that the U.S. told people, if you're American, you need to leave those countries immediately. But here's the problem, and this just goes to show you how much they care about you. The U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem said the U.S. Embassy is not in a position at this time to evacuate or directly assist Americans in departing Israel. You are on your own. So for people, go ahead, Garland, because I know some people are asking, like, well, how many Americans are there or whatever, but it just goes to show you.
I'm going to, in their defense, they ain't in a position. They're running for their lives. They're hiding in the basement themselves. They're not in any position to help anybody get out. Right now, it's every man for himself and God for us all, as they say. They're running for their lives. The people are there. But look, people may remember in, I think it was 2020, when or 2019 or 2020, when under Trump the U.S. killed General Qasem Soleimani, and the Iranians. One of the things they said at that time was, We will eject you from the region at a time and place of our choosing. I think we've just about gotten to the time and place of their choosing. You know, it's interesting because things happen and people are like, why aren't the Russians doing this? Why aren't the Chinese doing this? Why aren't the Iranians doing this? What they don't understand is that these cultures that have been around for thousands of years don't operate on the same timeline as us. They don't just say, you did that, so I got to punch you back. What they know is, I'll just wait. You ever heard the old saying, beware the fury of a patient man? I'll just wait, because sooner or later, things will work out. You'll be looking in the wrong direction. The sun will be in your eyes. Things won't be going right, and I'll sneak up behind you and bop you in the head. I don't know when, but I'm just going to keep watching, and sooner or later, things will line up right. And I think what they've done is they got prepared, and they knew sooner or later we do. Now, think about this. Americans, get out. That's called ejecting yourself from the region. Ain't gonna be no Americans left. The bases will be smashed. The planes that are left there, Trump is literally angry at Spain, saying, Spain, I'm mad at you. Why? Because you won't let me use your bases. Well, what happened to yours? You don't have any bases that you can use? Perhaps they've all been smashed to bits. You've been thrown out of the region, and now you're telling your people, hurry up, get out of the region. There ain't nobody going to be left in the region except the indigenous people of the region. I think that's what we were told by the Iranians, and I think that time is coming to pass.
I really think, too, that, you know, I'm looking back at everything. Benjamin Netanyahu made this speech in Hebrew, and he basically said, you know, like, this is, he'd been waiting 40 years for this, right? So this is what he's been pushing for 40 years. Remember, he was also pushing for the war in Iraq and many others. But I really think that I'm looking back at Professor Jing's lecture where he talked about Pax Judaica, and I'm really starting to see all this kind of how it can all come into place. So it's like, you know, the U.S. empire it's falling. So all empires don't remain, and it's almost just like they're just pushing all the energy and the power over into Israel. And there's no way I could see the U.S. winning this war with Iran. And I think that Trump knows that. I think all of them know that, but they're selling the American people a bag of lies, I think. But they're really sacrificing American soldiers and whoever else for Israel. Scott?
But what's new? We've been doing this for some time now. What I'll say is this: first of all, that list that you put up there, that is the Middle East. That is the United States being evicted from the Middle East. You know, all of our bases are being destroyed in those very nations. Our embassies are being destroyed. Our consulates are being destroyed. CIA stations are being destroyed. And now the United States is telling the American citizens, leave. That means businessmen, businesses that are there, tourists, expatriates, leave. This is how you excise the cancer, and they're not going to come back. Iran is going to win this war. And I just want to point out, the United States plan that we're executing today is a plan that was developed after the 12-day war, when we were confronted by the fact that Iran had missiles and et cetera, that we had to come up with a plan. So we've been working on this for less than a year. Iran's plan that they're implementing today is a plan that was first written in 2005. And Iran has had over 21 years to build up its resources for this very moment. In 2005, Dick Cheney threatened that the United States was going to go to war against Iran to topple the regime. And so the Iranian government took that very seriously. They broke their nation into 12 autonomous military districts, and they've been working ever since then to beef up the capabilities of these military districts, to give them the ability to survive independently in case a nuclear weapon was dropped on Tehran, but also to build up missiles, drones, et cetera. And so the plan that Iran is implementing today is a plan Iran has been writing for 21 years. So we've got a 21-year plan that has been backed up with all the resources necessary, going up against an 8-month plan, which has literally been made up on the spot. And we know how made up it is because, President Trump told us that, the initial wave was to last several days. But on day 3, they said, well, we got to redo the whole plan because we miscalculated ammunition expenditure rates and all this. And now they're talking about we may need boots on the ground. That's another. We're making up the plan as we go. And, I saw your face when you said boots on the ground. Relax. We don't have any boots on the ground to send.
Yeah. No.
Remember, I was involved in the greatest movement of boots on the ground to the Middle East, Operation Desert Storm, 750,000 Americans moving there. It took us many months to deploy, and we had airports that worked. So we could fly airplanes in, land at the airports, offload our troops. We didn't have to worry about anything. Our ships went through the Strait of Hormuz and got off in ports and offloaded, didn't have to worry about anything. And it took us months to do that. Today, there are no airports for us to land at. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. There's no ports. For us to put boots on the ground, we are going to have to launch a major amphibious assault and seize an Iranian port, Chabahar or Bandar Abbas. You happen to be talking to somebody who actually in 1985 helped rework the actual op plan to do just that, to seize Chabahar, to seize Bandar Abbas. We don't have those resources anymore. We don't have that capability. And Iran is a completely different threat. General Berger, the commandant who took over a couple years ago, in reviewing what he was required to do under the national security strategy and the national defense strategy, said, we're fooling ourselves because we can't do it. We have a legacy amphibious assault capability built around the notion of giant amphibious warfare ships that we put 1,000 Marines on. And we're supposed to take them out like World War II, park them off the coast of whatever place we're invading, and then the Marines move from ship to shore. Except those ships aren't going to get there because they're going to get hit by missiles and sunk. So we can't do that. So we're not going to put troops on the ground. So no matter what Trump says, Rubio says, we're not going to do it. When we send a heavy armored brigade to Europe, which we've been doing on a rotational basis, the brigade begins preparing for that move 6 months in advance. So the idea that we can tell a brigade, get up and move, it doesn't work that way. We say in 6 months, you need to be able to prepare to be moved to a port, load up on ships, and move out. It takes them 6 months to get ready. That's one brigade. We're talking about, and a brigade is 5,000 people. We're talking about moving 500,000 people. We don't have the shipping. We don't have the air transport capability. We don't have the logistics sustainability. We can't do it. We are not the same power we used to be. And so there will be no boots on the ground, not on that level. We have lost this war, and we just haven't admitted it yet.
Okay, one more question for both of you guys. This came from someone earlier. They wanted me to ask about speculation that Israel has used a directed energy weapon called the Iron Beam for the first time. Is any update on that? Have you guys heard about that?
Well, I'll put it like this. If they have, it ain't working real well. I don't know that they have or haven't. Could they have tested something like that? It's possible. But if they did, it's not doing them any good. They better go to something more conventional. Again, a white flag might be a good option. I'm just throwing that out there. That's the only thing I see that they're going to do to stop the missiles, and probably not, because I heard, I might have been the new guy who took over, who came to power, basically said these words, Israel's fate is sealed. So I just think they're going to continue to pummel him. And I don't think, we'll hear about some weapon. What good would it do to, which, might add, it would be a test. What good would it do to test a weapon when you're getting made and turned into Swiss cheese by actual, conventional missiles? They may have, but I just don't think it's a relevant even conversation at this point, to be frank.
Well, they have deployed the Iron Beam. We know it.
Okay.
There's video evidence of it, but it's deployed in northern Israel along the border, and it shoots down Katyushka rockets. So basically, as Hezbollah fires the Katyushkas as the Katyusha rises up, the iron beam shoots it. Now, the interesting thing about the iron beam is that there's a delay. I mean, it can shoot one rocket. There's a delay as it reaccumulates energy, reacquires the target, shoots another rocket, and it's blowing up the rockets. But if you ripple fire enough Katyushkas at it, it can't shoot them all, and it will be destroyed. The other thing is it can't shoot down the missiles. It doesn't have the ability to track a hypersonic missile coming in. And even if it did, it doesn't have the ability to deliver the energy necessary to destroy that. So, yeah, the iron beam is there. Maybe at some point in time in the future, if the technology gets mature, it could do something. But right now, it's a demonstration technology used to limited effect on the border against Katyusha rockets. I want to remind people that even though Iron Beam was there, Hezbollah was successful in striking targets in Haifa and doing a lot of damage, and they continue to strike targets. So Iron Beam is just another one of these pie-in-the-sky weapon systems that everybody said, when they first came out, this is a game changer. I mean, I love X, where people come, this is, you know what I'm talking about, the ones, Hezbollah used to fire rockets into northern Israel, but not anymore. Yesterday, something happened that changes the way the entire world will operate. A game changer called Iron Beam. Iron Beam has been deployed using bursts of energy. Nothing stands in its way. Israel is now alone. Cannot be defeated. You've seen you know what I'm talking about, those ridiculous posts. Well, Iron Beam, my prediction, will be iron junk by the end of the week, because a Hezbollah drone will have struck it, blown it up. You find the energy source, you take out the energy source, and you take out the weapon, and it'll just be another, failed weapons system. There's no such thing as a magic weapon system. And that's what people are looking for, something cheap and easy, because the missile defense shield hasn't worked. All the very expensive missile interceptors haven't worked. So they're looking for alternatives. And the concept of this magic laser beam weapon was, supposed to, offset the failures of the other systems. No, not today.
Oh, but Scott, wait. We're getting a Golden Dome, remember? It's going to work every bit as well as the Iron Dome. We're going to get a Golden Dome here.
Yeah. The Golden Dome, there's a one-word response to the Golden Dome. It's called Oreshnik. And when the Russians put Oreshnik in the Kola Peninsula, and we try to put Golden Dome in Greenland, understand that all they have to do is ripple fire Oreshnik, and all of the Golden Dome infrastructure is destroyed and it's over. I just want to tell the American people that, because Donald Trump is getting ready to spend about $1 trillion to put this garbage in. It won't work. And if we ever have to use it in war against Russia, the Russians will take it out before it ever can be used. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, I want to end with this, which is that, we all have to demand peace. And I know that both of you are very vocal in doing that. Are you guys still planning the trip to promote peace, like in Russia? You guys want to talk about that? Just let everybody know what's up.
Garland and I are going to Russia. We're going to be leaving at the end of this month. Spend about 10 days. We are planning something that when I can't. I wish I could talk more about it, but as Garland knows, that you don't count your chickens before they hatch. And the more you talk about something that hasn't been absolutely nailed down, the greater the likelihood is that it isn't going to happen. But conceptually, what we were working on was always relevant. Basically, it's about the role of Islam in creating the conditions for peace in the region. But now, because of the Iran conflict, this project has taken on not just a theoretical importance, but now we're into actual practical importance, because we are talking about the necessity of healing a rift with a major Islamic nation, the murder of the supreme leader. Again, the American people may not understand what happened, but this is the equivalent of killing the Pope. This is not something that's taken lightly. The Iranians are deeply wounded. The Shia faithful are deeply wounded by this. There will need to be a healing process. And what Garland and I are going to be doing is talking about the practical ways that we can use the Islamic faith to create a healing process. I'm very excited about this. This is a really cool concept, and history has turned out. We just got lucky that we were planning this when this happened, and so it's very relevant. We can definitely use support. If you go to scottritter.com, my website, it's my Substack page, there's a donate button. Garland and I are independent journalists, just like you are, Sabby. And, people, I'll just say this right now. If you can support Garland and I, great. Before you leave here tonight, support Sabby. What she's doing here is a service. She's doing a service to you because mainstream media has failed us all collectively. And other podcasters out there have failed collectively. Sabby is doing a service, and Sabby deserves to be supported. You need to get off your butts and you need to make donations right now. And maybe she doesn't need all the money rolling in right now. You know what? But the way independent journalism works is you have good times and you have bad times. And right now, help her become a good time, so that later on, when maybe the headlines aren't there and all that stuff, she can ride through. It's the same thing with Garland and I. We've gone to Russia once. We're going to Russia again. Who knows what the future holds? But it ain't cheap. The way we go is we pay for everything. There's a general license in the Department of Treasury sanctions against Russia, because normally you can't deal with sanctioned individuals, et cetera. But there's a general license for journalists. So if Garland and I wanted to, I could easily get a sponsor in Russia to fly us in business class. And I have to tell you, business class is a nice class to fly. But Garland and I can't afford that. We fly economy class, and that's just the way it goes. We could stay in 5-star hotels paid by other people. And Russia has some really good 5-star hotels. But we don't stay in 5-star hotels because we are paying it ourselves. We could eat at the finest restaurants, but we don't. We eat at the local pelmeni shops because we're paying for it. We rent our own studios. We rent our own cameramen. We rent our own sound engineers. We rent our own translators. We pay for everything, which means because we're not independently wealthy, we need your help to pay for it. So if you guys like what Garland and I are doing, go to scottritter.com, go to the donation page, and donate if you can. But before you do that, before you donate $1 to what Garland and I are doing, give money to Sabby, because she's the one that made tonight possible. She's out there working every day of the week to deliver here, and she deserves, all of our support.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Scott and Garland. Thank you guys so much for coming on, and good luck with the trip, and keep it on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, have a good night.
All right, and Eric put that website up there for you guys. You can donate to Garland and Scott for that trip via scottritter.com. So thanks a lot for that, Eric. Okay, I think we're still going to do call-in, guys. Yeah? You guys want to do call-in for a little bit tonight? All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back, and we'll head into call-in.
Of course, they always want to do call-in.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty.
So
Cool. I'll be right back, guys.
This is where we're going to give Sabby a little break. And then we're going to be transitioning over to the Zoom Hangout that we kind of call Zoom Call-In, because it used to be on the Call-In app. And then they got rid of the Call-In app, but we still do it. So we call it the Zoom Hangout, whatever you want to call it. But Sabrina is actually setting up that Zoom room right now, and then we'll post the link to that in the chat, and you should also be able to get there from Sabby Sabs too. But we'll tell you all about all that when she comes back. In the meantime, I'm going to read off some super chats, and the other thing I wanted to mention. Let's see, when it comes to these like weapon systems like the Iron Dome, what I always like to say about them is they are really effective at one thing, generating military industrial complex profits. And the same with this like iron beam weapon that they were talking about at the end. They have these toys and they, shooting down even aircraft, but especially missiles and drones, it is really a difficult thing. Like Garland said, it's like shooting a bullet, trying to shoot a bullet with a bullet. And you can get, maybe with a really expensive, high-end, furnished system with a lot of ammo and whatnot, you might get 80% or something, but the other 20% that gets through is going to be bad news. And the one other thing I wanted to say is just in general, like Sabrina said, we need to be demanding peace. We need to always be following that money, MCDS, money, corruption, demand solutions. And when we're talking about Israel running things, I do think we need to be a little bit careful in that. We need to connect the dots a little higher up in that, yes, Israel has outsized influence, but Israel's nothing without the billionaires. And it's, what we're dealing with here right now is a billionaire-controlled society, basically billionaire-controlled world. And it's that corruption, MCDS, money, corruption, the DS demands and solutions. We need to demand things like peace. We need to demand an end to the corruption. And if you want to see more about that, check out 11demands.org, which is here on your screen. And there's more on that. But we got to get something real going about a movement based on clear demands with a focus on corruption. Now we got a bunch of chats built up. I gotta start reading these. All right. Thanks for this one. And some of these will go back to earlier stories too, because these have been queued up for a little while. Thanks, Cynthia, for the super chat, who says false flag checked all the boxes, Black, African, Muslim, and immigrant. Yeah, talking about that shooter story. Thanks, Marvin Vargas, who says RBN still together. What happened to Nick Cruz? You can talk about that in Colin, if the Zoom Hangout Colin, if you want. And thanks for the super chat. I don't even know how to pronounce that. We'll say something mythology, who says apparently only 1% of Senegal Muslims are Shiite. All right. And thanks for this generous super chat from Vilma Thomas. It is stupid for Arab oligarchs complaining about some embassies, military infrastructure, or military command centers being bombed by Iran. Literally, they are declaring war on Iran as proxies. Yep, there you go. And thanks, Focus, for this very generous super chat. Appreciate that. And he's Focused. They say, thank you, Sabby, for being a voice of reason in unreasonable times. I appreciate your integrity and hard work. Well, thank you, Focus. I think Focus certainly got the message from Scott Ritter saying, give to Sabby. And yeah, we appreciate all your super chats. Also, the Sabby Patreon is a really good way to support the show. And if you look at the description in the video, the descriptions below all the videos, there's a link in there for the Sabby Patreon, which is a really good way to do it. And of course, you also want to sign up to the Substack, so you get updates. Thanks for this super chat. Deep Green. There was a pic of Trump looking like he lashed out at someone. It looked like Matt Gaetz. Well, maybe we can speculate or maybe run that down in the Zoom Hangout. Thanks for the super sticker, TC. Appreciate that. Thanks for this one from This May Be of Interest, who says, PSA, believe it or not, the world teacher, aka Christ, Ayman Mandami, Krishna, Maitreya Buddha, etc., will be seen and heard by all as soon as we're ready. Has physical body, huge cover up. Reference Benjamin Cream. It's time to live in peace. All right. That was somewhat cryptic, but thanks for the super chat. And thanks much, Marlon Wells, for this super chat, who says they effed around and found out on the highest level. Second term, second impeachment, first arrest, second unauthorized prisoner shipped to an unknown island. And thanks, Vilma Thomas, very much for this one, who says, thanks, God Almighty, we still have sane people on our planet. Thank you, Sabby, Scott, Max, those professors, and those retired colonels who should have been surrounding Trump. And thanks for the super sticker from I Am Thor. And shout out to Measured Man, who says, I'm going to tell you it's a different heartbreak when you see your loved ones return in a coffin. That is a scream when the Marines rang that doorbell. I'll never forget as my mother collapsed. I hear you. And thanks, RM Guest, who says, knock, knock, who's there? Armageddon. Armageddon who? Armageddon sick of all these conflicts. All right. Thanks for that one. Yeah, and we'll say demand peace, right? And shout out to Sticky Icky Liberty, who says the die is cast. Trump has the Epstein files behind him, and Netanyahu is pulling the strings. How weak he will appear, and what will he sacrifice to save face? Yeah, I mean, it'll sacrifice anything, and I would say they're all doing the bidding of the billionaire class, the top 0.1%, because everything's going well for them. It's very telling, you know. And thanks for this, Marlon. He says, keep in mind, Trump and his family will be underground for Armageddon should the armed forces be following unlawful orders in an illegal war. And shout out to Nicole for the super sticker, and to Joanza, new member. And thanks for this super sticker from Anything But the Norm. And thanks, Marlon, who says Congress paid for by AIPAC and held in check by black lines in the Epstein files, the redactions. Just saying their lack of objection is mind-boggling. I hear you. And shout out to Amy Brown for the super sticker. And thanks for this one, Steph says, thanks, Sabby, Garland, and Scott. And thanks to the Kesheev, says, Scott, please get your proper rest. We need more people like you giving us truthful news. Diet Coke is bad for your health. Drink water instead. I'm over 80 and want you to stay healthy. All right. They're worried about Scott out there.
Yeah. Put down the Coca-Cola.
Thanks, Templestar, the super sticker, and also Despicable Country for a super sticker. And we got this one from Paps8, says, thanks for your hard work, Sabby.
Thank you.
And let's see. There you go.
Thank you, Tamalu, for the super sticker. Thank you, Is-O Show, for the super sticker. Thank you, Ginger Mott, for the super sticker. Shout out to Bessie Furlow for becoming a member. Thank you, Miss Pooh, for the love and hearts. Thank you, Maid Santiago, for the super sticker. Thank you, Even Eve. Thanks, Sabby, for all you do. Thanks, Gelvin. Thank you, Sabby. You are so beautiful as well as needed in these times. Oh, thank you. Shout out to Straight to the Point for becoming a Sabby member. And shout out to AJH Wood. Great show, Sabby. Love your blouse. Thank you. Shout out to Weedy Gonzalez for becoming a member. And shout out to Akashi. You know what's cheaper than war, even free? Getting the F along. Is there an adult in the room? Well. There you go. Okay. I think we are ready for call-in. So, ladies and gents, the link is pinned at the very top of the live chat. I think I accidentally booted out the poll when I did that. I forgot. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and open that Zoom room for you guys. Just click on the link. It'll take you into the Zoom room. When you get into the room, mute your mic, please, first thing. And then after that, if you could do me a solid, if you want to speak, at the very bottom of the screen, there's an option, at least on my phone, it says more. Click on more and click raise your hand. And that lets me know who wants to speak. We will be in the call-in segment until midnight Eastern time. And then after that, I have to get my sleep. So I will see you guys all over at call-in. Eric, I'll make you co-host. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think SabbySabs2.com should be set up. I think I just did it.
If you come in a little bit later, we'll be there till midnight Eastern time, and then I got a hard stop. But if you come in a little bit later, you can get that link to the call-in segment at sabbysabs2.com. And I will see you guys over there. We'll be live again Thursday night, ladies and gents. So I will see you all then. And make sure you're supporting independent media, not just me, like everybody else out there on YouTube that is not supporting these wars, right? Like, don't go out there supporting the people that are supporting the wars. Support the channels that are not supporting these wars and are doing the good fight. So let's go ahead and head on over to call in, ladies and gents. You know how we do this. Have a good night and keep up the fight. See you at call in.